always, thank you for choosing us. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. Happy to have you with us on this What the Bleep is Going On Wednesday. Along with James Westling on social at James Westling, I am Ari Tepkin. We are presented by Modelo here, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. A lot to get to today. We got tons to discuss, including what the bleep is going on in Tempe, what the bleep is going on with Darren Peterson, what the bleep is going on with the college ball playoff rankings. We'll get to that coming up. James, though, dressed today like he's got a job interview immediately after the show.
It's a big day.
Did you put gel in your hair, or is that
it's a big day?
It's just an illusion.
It's just water.
Okay.
It's just water.
You say that every day, but today it feels like there's a little bit more texture in there.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of, larger hand puddles this morning. So, but we're off and rolling. A lot to get to, like you said, on a Wednesday.
So no job interview after the show today?
No, I'm locked in. I'm all in. I'm riding for the brand. I ride for the brand every day. Okay? I'm riding for the brand.
Is that a mint green polo you're wearing?
Yeah, I'd say mint green feels pretty accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just has a meeting with upper management vibe to it, Well,
I wanted to show you what real jeans looked like today. Spoiler alert, they're black. But after your dad jeans yesterday, I decided to really bring it today. That was the whole theme this morning when I was getting ready.
I don't know how into it with fashion you are, but apparently skinny jeans are out.
These aren't skinny. They're a slim fit.
Oh.
Skinny jeans are never out, first of all. Let's lead with that. Says the man who dressed today like he couldn't decide if he was going to go golfing after the show, if he was coaching Little League, or selling me a laptop at Best Buy this afternoon. One of the three, I think, is going to stick today.
That's a big miss, I'd say, on your part. I look amazing. James Westling, Ari Tepkin. Should Kansas feel good about a double-digit loss? What the bleep is going on at Tempe? We'll get into all that. Chris Cartman from Sun Devil Source will join us later on in the show to talk through the situation. And we'll get to the latest on the college football playoff rankings and why BYU is getting absolutely hosed in about 5 minutes. But I have to start today with West Virginia. They are so back. West Virginia is so back. Kevin Brown, a 4-star offensive tackle who decommitted from Penn State, has committed to West Virginia. He's 6'7", 290 pounds. His dad, Tim, was an offensive tackle at West Virginia, and he played for 2 years under Rich Rod, so that's a big reason why Kevin Brown has committed to West Virginia. But it wasn't that he committed to West Virginia and that he's 6'7", 290 pounds as a high school senior. It was what he did during his commitment that stands out, James. So here is Kevin Brown making his West Virginia commitment on the Pat McAfee show yesterday.
His dad.
I'm bringing couch burning back to Morgantown, baby. Let's do it. Yo, some difficulties, but we're going to do it. Yeah! My little brother, man. There it goes.
Yes.
There it goes.
Okay. Kevin, I like that. Kevin, I respect
We're bringing it back, baby.
Okay, the Morgantown police aren't going to love that. But I'll tell you what.
Be fine with it, man.
You got one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we like the good old days out there, baby.
Big commitment W, baby. Let's do it.
Okay, I like that. We're celebrating for sure in Morgantown with you coming. Yes. Yes.
All right. So, yeah, he went on the Pat McAfee show, announced that he was going to West Virginia, and then burned a couch on live television.
That's amazing. Like, forget a handshake and a hug or a high five. Let's commit to arson on the spot in Morgantown. That's how you make an entrance into the Big 12. That's the most West Virginia thing ever. It's obviously a long-standing tradition, but also this is a huge get for Rich Rod in West Virginia because even with arguably the worst offensive line in the league this year, they've still had success rushing the football because of the system and the new age offensive schematics of Rich Rod. You get a kid that's, 6'7", 300 pounds, who will probably start right away, a la Jordan Seaton at Colorado. That's kind of what this reminds me of. He's going to be a plug-and-play guy for West Virginia. And, man, this is just what makes college sports so great. Identity, culture. Let's burn those couches.
Yeah, exactly. His dad, Tim, played for 2 years under Rich Rod. Huge reason why he chose West Virginia, so huge get for them. And even better, And the funniest part is how uncomfortable Pat McAfee seemed during that. Like, don't the Morgantown police are not going to be happy about this. Like, it's hard to make Pat McAfee uncomfortable on his own show.
Very much so. Very much so. That was the most surprising part of the whole thing. Is he clearly didn't know it was coming, but man, that was awesome stuff.
Yeah, I mean, who could see that coming? Yeah, he's going to commit and then burn a couch.
I just thought maybe behind the scenes they'd
Tip him off?
stage it a little bit. Yeah, to a certain degree.
Totally. Yeah, that probably would have been the move. All right. So the big news from yesterday, aside from Duke beating Kansas by double digits and what came out of Tempe, was the college football playoff rankings. The Big 12 has 5 teams in, which was a surprise. Arizona State at number 25, Houston at 23, with Tech at 5, BYU at 11, and Utah at 12. James, your reaction to the 5 Big 12 teams ranked in the top 25, but probably more specifically where BYU and Texas Tech are ranked.
Yeah, not surprising to me at all. I mean, I think Texas Tech has shown that they are worthy of a top 5 ranking with the way they are beating people. And I continue to look at the fact that these Big 12 teams are ranked higher in the college football playoff rankings than they are in the AP top 25. There's not 5 teams ranked in the AP poll this week. All 3 of the Big 12 teams in that top portion are ranked a spot higher than they are in the AP. So no surprises in terms of where these teams are. Now, is it justified? Should BYU be number 11? Should they be behind 1, 2, 3 teams that have 2 losses on the season? We can debate until we're blue in the face, but I think initially it could be a lot worse. Texas Tech, though, knocking on the door of, I think, a top 4 seed. You know, Texas Tech is in a position to be in a position, if they win the Big 12 championship game, somebody from the SEC is going to lose. Either Ohio State or Indiana are going to suffer a loss in the Big 12 in the Big 10 championship game. So I mean, Texas Tech is very much in a position to, they wouldn't host, but they would have a bye in the first round of the college football playoff, which would be massive for the league.
Well, yes. However, it feels like the opportunity for the Big 12 to get a second bid for the first time is very much at stake here, because I'm under no impression or illusion that whoever loses the Big 10 championship game is still not going to be in the field. And there's, at this point, based on the ESPN projection from last night, 5 SEC teams that are going to get bids. And if you look at the remaining schedule for all 5 of those teams, I don't see many opportunities for losses there. Now, crazy things happen at the end of the year, but you'd think the SEC is not going to get 5 teams in. But even in that case, whoever plays in the SEC championship, and it looks like it's going to be A&M and Georgia, like the loser of that game is going to be in too. So I don't know how you feel about this, but the BYU situation to me is extremely disturbing from the standpoint of right now both BYU and Utah are the first teams out, and it seems like unless BYU were to beat Tech in a Big 12 championship scenario, or Utah in a more unlikely but still possible Big 12 championship scenario, the Big 12 is going to be left with just one team.
And I agree in that seems to be the path that we are on. With that said, you know, you look at these rankings and 12 teams get in, and so you look at 1 through 12. But with the automatic bids from the ACC and the group of 5, essentially it comes down to there's one spot left for 3 teams. I look at Alabama, I look at BYU, I look at Utah being in that conversation, and then there's one more. I think it's Oklahoma. Notre Dame is in. They've got a light schedule the rest of the way. The Big 12 needs some chaos. Now, if BYU beats Texas Tech, that is the path for the Big 12 to get multiple teams in, because the College Football Playoff Committee has shown that if BYU ends up with 2 losses, even if Alabama or Oklahoma have 3 losses, I think they have a better shot of getting in because of how many teams are ranked above BYU with 1 more loss. So that is the path. That is the angle. I mean, Oklahoma or Alabama, I think one of those teams would have to suffer 2 more losses. But there's still 2 games left in the regular season. There's still conference championships. It's not out of the question to think that something like that could happen when you look at South Carolina holding a 30-3 lead over Texas A&M at halftime. Nobody would have saw that coming. But I do think the Big 12 needs a little bit of help.
Here's what Hunter Yurachek, the now chair of the College Football Playoff Committee, said about why BYU is ranked at 11 behind multiple 2-loss teams.
I think it is really the way they looked in that game against Texas Tech. They were dominated on both sides of the ball in that game against Texas Tech. And then you look at their wins. They have a win over Utah, who's ranked 13th, but then their other wins are against that we would consider quality wins are against an unranked Iowa State team, Arizona, and East Carolina. And then you look at a two-loss Alabama team that's got wins against number 4 Georgia, number 14 Vanderbilt, number 21 Missouri, and number 20 Tennessee. Notre Dame's got a win over 15th ranked Southern Cal, and then last week a dominating win on the road at Pitt, who is ranked. And then Oklahoma has wins at number 18 Michigan, number 20 Tennessee, and at number 10 Alabama. So I think it's just the number of quality wins that are with those two lost teams ahead of them, and then how they looked in that game 2 weeks ago in Texas Tech against Texas Tech.
So first off, I mean, I'll be honest, Mac Rhodes was way easier to listen to than Hunter Yurachek, who seems to contradict himself in every sentence that he says. BYU is 5 in strength of record, which is this new metric that the committee is so heavily weighting, apparently. Yet despite that, they're at 11, and especially in comparison to Notre Dame, as BYU was looking up at 2 lost teams, the case was just made that Notre Dame's wins against USC and Pitt, a Pitt team that lost to West Virginia this season, somehow that win is better than the 2 losses that Notre Dame has. And even though BYU lost to just Texas Tech, who's ranked 5th, and beat a top 15 team in Utah, BYU's one win is better than both of Notre Dame's other wins, and they only have 1 loss, and that 1 loss is to the 5th-ranked team. It's insane how much weight Notre Dame's losses seem to be playing into this. Like, strength of loss matters a ton. It's crazy to me how much the committee loves losses. They love losses. Oh, it was a good loss. Like, it's a loss. That's the wild part to me. BYU being ranked behind Notre Dame and effectively putting Notre Dame in the playoff ahead of BYU as a automatic bid, or from a second bid standpoint, is ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as, basically the college ball playoff committee being made up of conferences and then Notre Dame. I wonder if those two things are related. It's a joke. So we get to watch Notre Dame get boat raced again?
Right. So I think when it comes to BYU, what makes this, to me, such a fascinating case study is because his comment about BYU's game against Texas Tech is not wrong. They did get dominated on both sides of the ball, but Texas Tech is doing that to everybody. When they have a healthy quarterback in Baron Morton, their defense is playing at an elite next level like we've never seen in the Big 12 in the last 2 decades. But with Notre Dame, I think Big 12 Nation, Big 12 fans can root for another Miami loss because they're still chalking that Miami loss up as a good loss to start the year. Miami's ranked 13th, okay? If Miami drops another game, they're going to be in the late teens or maybe even in the 20s, and then that's no longer a good loss. Now, would the College Football Playoff Committee address that? Probably not, but that's where I think the Big 12 has a little bit of a leg to stand on. You're right, Notre Dame does not have...
Yeah, but the ACC is going to get a bid anyways, and
right.
Miami
it's probably not going to be Miami.
And Miami could give them a second bid. So, to me, the bigger thing is the 5 SEC teams that are in here. Mm-hmm. And Notre Dame.
So I think, and yes, that is definitely a problem. Now, when I look at the SEC teams, okay, Alabama, as much as I want to rag on Alabama, they have wins at Georgia, at Missouri. They have wins against Tennessee and Vanderbilt. They have 4 top 25 wins. That's the most in the country. If we are going to use the argument that Notre Dame doesn't have any quality wins and BYU lacks quality wins, I also think we need to address the teams that do. So that one I don't have as big of an issue with. Where it gets interesting to me is Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Like, where are their quality wins? Oklahoma has that win at Alabama, but if Oklahoma loses to Missouri or LSU, I don't think they should be in the conversation at all. They should be out. That would be 3 losses. They'd have a loss to an unranked team in Texas. They'd have a loss against Ole Miss, and then a loss against either a team that's barely ranked or a team that's not ranked at all. So my point is there's still, like, the Big 12 is still 1 or 2 losses away, I think, from having a good chance of getting a second team in. Now we've just got to pray that it happens.
Yeah, and I just, in looking at the projected or the schedule ahead for these 5 SEC teams, it's just tough to see many losses coming in there. And so it's hard to believe the SEC would actually get 5 bids. But at the same time, where it stands right now, I don't see that happening. And not even in the SEC championship game, again, in a situation in which both those teams are getting in anyways, which makes the stakes of the SEC championship and the Big Ten championship almost moot. I guess we'll see what happens when we get there. But, I mean, and here's the thing. Like, let's say A&M were to lose to Texas. That probably puts Texas right back in the conversation anyways, right? So some of these losses that could potentially occur only make the water muddier for all these teams. I just think like BYU Notre Dame head-to-head is hilarious to me because it's so obvious that BYU has the better resume and based on that should have a bid over them, but they won't because Notre Dame has their own representation in the college football playoff. It's conferences and Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. So we could talk about brand, but there's clearly no brand that matters more to the college football playoff than Notre Dame because they have their own representation. When the committee, when the college football playoff group meets, like they did to discuss a 2014 playoff, which we'll get into, it's all of the conference commissioners and the athletic director at Notre Dame. Of course they're going to get a bid. But like if you follow the committee's own stated philosophy in talking about contradictions, rewarding wins, context, strength of record, strength of schedule, avoid overreacting to a single loss, I think BYU has a very strong case to be a top 10 team.
Absolutely.
And ahead of these many of these 2-loss teams, specifically Notre Dame.
I mean, you noted BYU's strength of record. They're 6th in strength of record. Now, if we're looking at efficiencies, ESPN's efficiency metric, which takes into account offense, defense, special teams efficiencies, measured of a per-play EPA efficiency, right? So Texas Tech is 3rd in the country, but Notre Dame is 5th. But then Utah and BYU are number 6 and number 7. Ranked ahead of Georgia, ranked ahead of Texas A&M, ranked ahead of Alabama, ranked ahead of Oklahoma. So I almost think I'd pinpoint the fact that the SEC has potentially 5 teams in. I might have a bigger beef with that than I do Notre Dame. I just don't know which team to knock out of the SEC at this point. I felt like Texas A&M has been overrated all year. They haven't played a tough schedule, in my opinion. Their biggest win is against Notre Dame way back week 2. I think there was a reason they were down 30-3 against South Carolina. So Texas A&M is a team that, because of what they've done to this point, they could lose their next 2 games. They could lose to Texas. They could lose in the SEC championship game, and they're still going to be in the field.
Well, and remember, Notre Dame, again, is being given credit for wins over USC and Pitt. Pitt lost to West Virginia. Meanwhile, BYU beat Utah. And for some reason, those 2 wins, ranked wins, quote unquote, because Pitt beat up on the horrible ACC this year, that lifts up the Notre Dame win to the point now that Notre Dame is in the field. But again, they're going to get every benefit of the doubt. And it's not surprising, and it shouldn't be. It's just worth pointing out. Mm-hmm. That's it. BYU is getting hosed by Notre Dame. And you're right. I mean, if we broke it down further, we could probably find other issues with the 5 SEC teams, certainly. But when push comes to shove, we're just comparing Notre Dame and BYU. BYU, if we looked at Brandon Matter, we just said, here's team 1 and team 2. BYU would clearly be in the field ahead of Notre Dame, and yet despite that, Notre Dame's in because they have their own representation, and they're going to get the pass. Mm-hmm. Like the college football playoff is going to do whatever it can to get Notre Dame in every single year.
Yeah, we called it week 3.
Yeah.
Like after they were 0-2. Notre Dame's going to run the table, look at their upcoming schedule, look at what Jeremiah Love is doing. They're going to run the table, and they're going to be in the college football playoff. And that's going to play out. It is playing out right before our eyes. But look at Texas A&M's schedule. How many teams in America would be 10-0 with this schedule? Their best win is Notre Dame, 41-40, way back in September, week 3, right? They've beaten Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, Arkansas, South Carolina, all teams that are below 500. I don't think any of those teams are going to make a bowl. And then their marquee wins are at LSU, without a head coach, and at Missouri. A Missouri team who couldn't sniff a Big 12 championship game when they were in this conference, except for when they had Chase Daniel at quarterback, and that was it.
That's James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. A lot to get to today on this What the Bleep Wednesday. What the bleep's going on with BYU in the rankings. What the bleep's going on in Tempe. And coming up next, what the bleep is going on with Darren Peterson. Kansas falls to Duke last night. How good should we feel about this loss? I don't feel as good as everybody seems to feel. We'll get to that next. This is Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Along with James Westling, I am Ari Temkin. Great to have you with us today and every day here in your home for the Big 12. Tune in and Big 12 Studios to find a list of where you can find Big 12 Studios. Just search big12studios.com. Roku, Tubi, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, plenty of other platforms. Just search big12studios.com to find all of the places you can find Big 12 Studios. And, of course, the app store is where you find the TuneIn app if you have not yet already downloaded. And then make sure to favorite the channel, Big 12 Radio. That way it shows up each and every time you open up the app. Big 12 Radio on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Okay, a lot to get to today on a What the Bleep Wednesday. All right, so Kansas lost last night in the Champs Classic at Madison Square Garden to Duke. Not much of a surprise there, considering Darren Peterson, we knew before the game, was not going to play. He was held from this game, but Kansas fought. This was a close game. But the final 5 minutes did not go well for the Jayhawks. Kansas was down 3 with 5 minutes to play. Melvin Council hit a 3 to make it 67-64. And then in that final 5 minutes, Kansas was outscored 11-2. They shot 0 of 6 from the floor and 0 of 4 from 3. Kansas finishes 4 of 21 from 3, and Duke ends up covering the 10.5-point spread, something it didn't look like they were going to do with the final 5 minutes, James. And what we have here is another Bill Self team that cannot knock down three-point shots. It was, 4 of 21 kind of speaks for itself, but especially at the end of the game, as they're heaving threes and missing and Duke keeps scoring, it was sort of an embarrassing finish to a game that was pretty close relative to what we expected.
It definitely was. And I think the biggest thing that is so foreign to me is Kansas and Duke play a ton in the non-conference. Seems like they play just about every year or every other year. And what was so un-Kansas-like, at least in these last couple of meetings, is that Duke just looks like the more talented team. And I am not used to, in my life, seeing Kansas being the lesser talented team. Why can't Kansas reload at the level of a Duke or some of these other programs in this new NIL era? They may have had the best player on the floor had he been healthy in Darren Peterson, but collectively, Duke was more talented. And I do think that the three-point shooting is a major red flag. That's becoming an identity problem over the last couple of years. Shooting 19% from three, going 4 of 21. The possessions were there, the looks were there, the makes were not. And in a game of this magnitude, you have to be able to knock those down. We're 2 weeks into the season, and KU hasn't shown a reliable, consistent perimeter shooting threat. And then...
Yeah, I think, by the way, the best performance of this game was Trey White. But part of that, too, is that he's in the game because he's taking so many shots and he's got the ball in his hands so much. If Darren Peterson's on the floor, Trey White doesn't have the ball in his hands as much. Can he be a spot-up three-point shooter? I think, there's so much optimism seeping from this game, and I don't know. I feel wrong for being disappointed by this outcome because the biggest thing I wanted to see is can this team shoot threes, which will create driving lanes for Darren Peterson if and when he comes back, and I just didn't see it.
Right. 4 for 19 is not going to cut it.
21.
19%. Thank you. The other thing is, and if Peterson's healthy, this is probably a different story. But Kansas in the final 5 minutes, it was very evident that they needed and did not have a closer.
Yes.
That's exactly where you need your future lottery pick type talent. They didn't make a field goal. Duke closed the game on an 11-2 run. And that's where a guy like Darren Peterson can go one-on-one. He can get downhill. He can create either his own shot or shots for others. And KU's late-game offense turned into guys forcing shots. They looked really unorganized offensively, and that's where they missed Peterson the most. So I see both sides of it where, sure, Kansas hung in there, and that's definitely a good sign, but for me, getting dominated on the glass, that's not Peterson-related. That's a team stat that it doesn't matter if Peterson's there or not there. Lack of offensive rebounds, to be minus 11 on the boards, in Big 12 play, that's not going to cut it. And Duke also didn't shoot the ball great from downtown. They only made 3 more threes than Kansas in the game, and they took a lot more. So there's definitely two sides of the whole thing. But the bottom line is Kansas is very much a different basketball team, and we knew this going in without Darren Peterson.
Yeah, so let's get into the Darren Peterson part of this. All right, so last night, Bill Self said Peterson had a hamstring tightness that was caused by a hamstring strain. He said until that subsides, he's not going to be able to play, and that's been ongoing for a significant amount of time. Which is a very interesting quote because there's been a lot of ambiguity surrounding the injury. I mean, Mike Vernon, who covers Kansas and he's got the KU hearings that he posts on. He basically put quotes from Bill Self in reference to Darren Peterson over the last 19 days. Vernon writes, in 19 days, Self has discussed Peterson's health 8 different times and never once mentioned a hamstring. First, if you remember, it was cramps. Then Self had a quote where he mentioned it's not cramps, he's actually sick. It's a stomach bug. Then before the North Carolina loss, Self said of Peterson, quote, it's concerning. We're not going to be nearly as affected with him playing 19 minutes a game, but it's something that we don't anticipate being anything that lasts. Feels like we're in better shape than we were obviously a week ago, end quote. Peterson wanted to score 22 points in 28 minutes against North Carolina. And then the hamstring stuff started to come out before the Texas A&M Corpus Christi game. I'm calling it 5 games in. This team has first-round exit written all over it yet again for Kansas. And because all I keep seeing on social media is optimism over this loss to Duke and how when Darren Peterson comes back, it's all going to be fine. It's like, hold on. Time out. They played 5 games. We've already had cramps, a stomach bug, whatever else that he was been dealing with, and now a hamstring that apparently has been going on for quite some time, as we found out last night. So I'm supposed to believe at some point this guy's going to be healthy and able to play for a significant period of time to carry this Kansas team? Feels like the team that we saw last night is the team we should be getting used to seeing on the floor for Kansas until we see something different.
Yep.
I don't think that's a conspiracy theory. I don't think that's outrageous or wild. That's what we've seen from 5 games. And not only that, but like, dude has played in 1 full game out of the 5. If you include the exhibitions too, same thing. 1 full game.
And these teams play so many games now. Now, with the Big 12 conference schedule going from 20 to 18 games, there will be 2 extra built-in buys for these teams. But the bottom line is you're playing typically at least 2, sometimes 3 games a week. So if Darren Peterson returns early and further tweaks his hamstring or has a stomach bug or whatever the case may be, you're out 2 weeks, you can miss up to 6 games in conference play. That's a huge chunk of your conference schedule. So I'm with you on let's get used to this Kansas basketball team because there's no sign or indication that he's going to return and anytime soon. And that's the thing. I love that you pulled those quotes because initially it was, yeah, he could basically play tonight. To now it's, well, he's going to be out for the near future. And now and then it's the foreseeable future. And it just sounds like Kansas doesn't really know. And all the different conspiracy theories that Matt Tate dropped on the program yesterday, I think carry a lot of weight because any of them could be true, and they can all be true simultaneously. Is this a load management thing? Is this just an extra cautionary thing for Darren Peterson and this Kansas basketball team? But it's almost like you just assume that he's going to be out. If he does play, then maybe things change in terms of KU's outlook. But I'm with you on let's just plan on him not being back, at least for the rest of the non-conference.
Yeah, and that's tough to swallow considering the difficulty that Kansas is now going to be facing in terms of their non-conference because this is the tough stretch here where, they're playing UConn. They're going to Vegas next following this game. So a lot of premier matchups here for Kansas, and you don't expect to see Darren Peterson. And by the way, certainly we'll see how this thing shakes out, but we keep seeing, during the broadcast last night, they kept mentioning, presumptive number 1 pick. If this dude's not playing, and you've got Boozer and DeBonsa and all these other guys that are playing,
yeah,
should we assume he's going to be the number 1 pick?
No, I think he's going to be a top 5 pick, but that's a great point because DeBonsa's tearing it up. Koa Pete will enter the conversation from Arizona. Boozer at Duke. There are a lot of guys in this draft. This will be one of the deepest NBA drafts we've ever seen. I think it's going to going to be right up there with like the '03 draft that had all those guys that went on to be NBA All-Stars. No, he's not a lock to be a number one pick at all. Now, with that said, the thing that that has been avoided, that I hope it continues to go down this path, is nobody seems to really be pointing the finger at Darren Peterson, and I hope that continues because he wants to be out there. Like, ball is life. That's all he knows. He wants to be on the floor. This is not his choosing or his doing. Now, maybe it's his camp. Maybe it's, just the KU team doctors, whoever it may be behind the scenes holding him back. But there's no doubt in my mind that he would have loved to have been on the floor last night.
All right. So, by the way, also Boozer's a beast. Took that away from last night. He was part of the rebounding issue was that Kansas had no ability to deal with their size inside, and Boozer's a big reason for that. But he had a play in this game where he had a cross-court pass for a wide-open three. Three was missed. He then goes into the lane, gets the offensive rebound, and one on the putback. It was a beastly stretch for Boozer. And, again, 4 of 21. As of this morning, Kansas now has the 55th ranked offense via KenPom, 11th on defense. So their defense has been good and was top 10 before the game last night. So you think, all right, they give up points to a really good Duke team, fine. But 55th ranked KenPom offense is just not going to be good enough. And I get it. Like, the Peterson stuff's there, so maybe there'll be a better offense with him. But, like, the thing that stands out more than anything is 4 of 21 from three. Cole Rosario, who you figured could be a effective three-point shooter, has been absolutely terrible three-point shooting. With all due respect to an 18-year-old who's a true freshman who is reclassified as a senior in high school. I get it. But, like, this is the roster that Bill Self has put together. Once again, it seems like completely forgetting about the importance of getting spot-up shooters to surround Darren Peterson with as he's trying to get, lanes, driving lanes.
And this is the third year in a row that Kansas has overhauled their roster and leaned on portal guys. Outside of Peterson, they have built their roster year in and year out through the portal. And because of that, we talk about the blue chip ratio a lot in football. If we were to carry that over to basketball, you want to take a guess at how many top 100 high school recruits are on this Kansas basketball team? Peterson is one, obviously.
Flory's 2. Is Bryson Tiller?
Yes.
3. Rosario?
No.
3?
There's 5 total.
Wow.
Out of high school. Trey White was a top 100 recruit. El Marco Jackson was a top 100 recruit. So there's 5 guys on KU's basketball team that were top 100. Now, let me pull up Duke. I had this yesterday. On Duke's roster, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys. Their top 8 guys are top 80 players out of high school. The top 8 guys in their rotation. They have 5 guys that are top 20 out of high school. And Kansas used to be right up there with those other programs in the country in terms of recruiting high school players. Whether they would stay for their sophomore year or not is irrelevant for this topic. The guy, more often than not, they would get guys that are rated 50 to 100 that would stay and develop. The Frank Masons, the Devontae Grahams, all those KU greats of the past, the Sharon Collins of the world. And we're just not seeing that in this NIL transfer portal era. And that is what is so different from this era of Kansas basketball to the past. And I don't have an answer for it. I can't figure out why. I would think NIL would be up there with any other blue blood basketball program. I would think the pedigree with Allen Fieldhouse. I would think the conference with the Big 12. I can't understand why they aren't getting that caliber of player.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo. All right, so What the Bleep Wednesday. What the bleep is going on in Tempe, including some rumors swirling around Sam Levitt. We'll get into that next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. James Westling, Ari Temkin, Taman Turner is our producer. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We reacted to the College Football Playoff Top 25 reveal last night, which I thought was great television. It's the Champions Classic is a great
in the second half
interval to get that on. I don't know who that was, but
someone has entered the chat.
Yeah. So you've got the Champions Classic going on, and then between games, you get the CFP reveal on court, on site. It's great television, very compelling, way more so than just the in-studio stuff for the reveal. We talked about Kansas's optimistic loss for some people. For me, I don't know. Seems more like a team that's on its way to a first-round exit yet again without Darren Peterson. We shall see. Feels like there's just an ample amount of caution going on with Darren Peterson, and then on a What the Bleep Wednesday, what the bleep is going on in Tempe? So last night or yesterday, a report comes out from On3 from Pete Nakos and Steve Wiltfong basically saying that it is unlikely that Sam Leavitt returns to Arizona State next year. And the report indicates that Leavitt, via On3, they've learned that the camp of Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt is actively shopping the talented passer at a quote-unquote high level to other programs with the plan of entering the transfer portal when the window opens on January 2nd. Chris Hummer from CBS Sports adds, the salary for a quarterback of Leavitt's caliber will be $3 million plus next season. Arizona State's, as an athletic department, isn't spending the full rev share allotment this year, $18 million versus around $20.5. And the Sun Devils would be bidding against schools who have both the full rev share and significant resources via name, image, and likeness dollars behind the rev share cap to offer Leavitt. Now, Leavitt's brother came out, and Leavitt's brother is representing him for CAA, and basically said, hey, this is BS, this is not true. Seems like there's some damage control here being done on the part of Dallin Leavitt because, I mean, you may get false reports that come out from maybe lesser-known reporters that maybe are on the scene or local, whatever. That happens from time to time from guys trying to make a name for themselves in social media, but you're not going to get a false report from Pete Nakos and some of these other guys. Like, they're hearing things. People are talking. Like, they're verifying things that are being said out there. So I think there's a lot of smoke. If you're an Arizona State fan, you're like, oh, this is nothing. Nothing's going on here. Like, you're buying a little bit too much into what the PR battle is from the side of Leavitt. And look, the reality is Leavitt is doing a disservice to the rest of the quarterbacks around college football if he isn't getting full fair market value for his services. That's the reality of it because he helps to set the market. So he's got to be doing his due diligence and demanding the most from Arizona State. And I'm sure, that's what he wants. He wants to stay at Arizona State, but he also wants to make sure that the market is set at the proper amount for quarterbacks. That's just the nature of the business. It's kind of how this thing works. So both of those things can be true, and I think this is part of where, Dillingham has said he's committed to Arizona State, but you wonder how committed he can be when he told us he wants to be at a place that he can win a national championship. And if you're not spending the full amount and having the full resources at your disposal like the rest of these SEC and Big Ten teams have and many Big 12 schools, then you're not in position at Arizona State to win a national title.
And Kenny Dillingham has become the odds-on favorite now for the LSU job, according to one book. Like, all of this happening at the same time is very sus, for lack of a better term. The Pete Nakos stuff is...
That's sus, by the way, for you to say it as 40-year-old.
I say sus all the time. Like, I just sus out, bro. That's what I'm doing. But Pete Nakos, to your point, he's very credible. And essentially the reaction from Sam Leavitt's camp almost solidified Pete Nakos' report because there was no denial. It was just more of, hey, why are you putting this out there? Like, this isn't supposed to be out there, And you think about how much quarterbacks are making, $3 million plus is what the market value should be. I mean, there are Group of 5 quarterbacks and Group of 5 conferences that are making $1 million. Over half of the average for starting quarterbacks at that level is between $800 and $1 million. Okay, so that just puts into perspective how valuable that position is. The big question for me is, like, unless there's something going on within the athletics department in terms of allotment and some of that stuff you were talking about, and Kenny Dillingham asking local businesses to chip in, outside of that.
Well, and by the way, doesn't that make now you go back and you hear the comments from Dillingham about local businesses lobbying? Doesn't the Sam Levitt stuff now make even more sense based on that?
Oh, absolutely. And because I can't come up with a reason other than he's being significantly underpaid for him leaving Arizona State. Isn't his lifelong dream to play in the NFL?
Yeah.
That's what he told us at Media Days. That's what he told us last year multiple times. If that's the case, he's in a very strong position to get there at Arizona State. You have a guy who mentored and tutored and helped develop Justin Herbert, who is Sam Levitt's idol. His coach, Kenny Dillingham, was his offensive coordinator at Oregon and built him into the quarterback that he is. He has continuity within the system. Kenny Dillingham gives him the keys to the entire offense. He told us at Media Days, he has a ton of freedom to do whatever he wants within this offense. And leaving that, you're not only resetting relationships, but you're resetting in an entire scheme. And Tempe is not a bad place to be. It's one of the most beautiful parts of the country. You've got an incredible campus, and you've got the notoriety already at Arizona State with what they did last year in the college football playoff. So I think it's more about being underpaid than it is looking elsewhere for a bigger brand, better opportunity in this situation. And we've seen quarterbacks, I would just say, Sam Levitt should be careful. Like, we've seen quarterbacks leave situations where they are the guy for situations that they think are going to be better and help their market value, and it hasn't panned out. Look at Jackson Arnold at Auburn. Got off to a great start, and now he's sitting the bench at Auburn. He has everything right there in front of him at Arizona State to live out his lifelong dream of being an NFL quarterback by coming back and playing for the Sun Devils.
That's great points all around. So I think on the one hand, you certainly are doing a disservice to the rest of the quarterbacks in college football if you're not helping to set the market, right? Because Levitt is going to be at the top of the food chain, and if he's getting paid, let's say $2 million, which is around what group of 6 quarterbacks are making, maybe at the top end of that, he's leaving a ton of money on the table. But more importantly, again, to the rest of the quarterbacks, he's dictating the market at a lower rate. I mean, it's like the housing market, right? If you undersell your house in your neighborhood relative to market value, then you're doing your neighbors a disservice. It might not matter to us or fans. They might think, F that's a ton of money, but it's important to know that's probably in his line of thinking. But the other side of that is, okay, sure, think about the quarterbacks, the neighborhood at large, but like your best chance to get to become a top 10 NFL quarterback, a top 10 draft pick, is by staying.
Is to stay put. Absolutely. Because you have a coach who's already done it with other guys. It's your 3rd year in the system.
Now, Jordan Tyson won't be back next year.
And I thought about that too. And how many of these offensive linemen will be back next year for Arizona State? And how many of these players are going to leave if they aren't getting market value at their position? So the NIL stuff, I really think, is the only piece here. I can't think of anything else that would be going on because we know it's not culture. We know it's not environment. We know it's not Kenny Dillingham and the way he coaches his guys. All of that stuff is 10 out of 10, elite level status. So the financial piece is the only thing I can think of. And this would be really unique to college football because I think you could make the case this would be the biggest named quarterback to ever enter the transfer portal at this stage in their career. Like, I think about the market last year. You had John Mateer. Well, he was playing at Washington State. Nobody was seeing their games. Ends up at Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma to Auburn, but he was coming off a really bad year. Malik Murphy transferring out of from Texas and then Duke. I mean, the highest market value quarterback last year was a guy from Tulane in Darian Mensah. This is Sam Levitt. This is a guy that's expected to be a top 10 NFL draft pick. This is a guy that put on a show in the college football playoff. There's not been a quarterback of this pedigree enter the portal in this type of environment situation, so it's all very, very new and very, very unique.
Well, and you mentioned the NIL piece with Levitt. I think it's also true with Dillingham because, again, I go back to what Dillingham told us last week. He, like all coaches, wants an opportunity to coach a team that can win a national championship. NIL is a huge part of that. And so while there's so many signs that point to Kenny Dillingham staying put at Arizona State, I've never felt more like Dillingham is going to leave than I do today. because if Arizona State doesn't have the full commitment from an NIL perspective, then he can't win a national championship at Arizona State, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
If you're going to lose Sam Levitt now because you can't come up with the fun, like Levitt wants to stay, but he needs more money to stay, and if you can't do that, then you can't do that. And you're not going to just, well, ho-hum, hopefully we get lucky with a guy that's going to take less than market value to stay here. Like, no, that's not going to happen. I think that's the reason why Dillingham's the odds-on favorite now to take over at LSU. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to say it's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked if Kenny Dillingham is the head coach of LSU and Sam Levitt is the starting quarterback next season. I mean, it'd be dreadful for Arizona State fans, but at the same time, you got a guy that is ready for the prime time, has a team 25th in the college ball playoff rankings that has had Jeff Sims be quarterback the majority of the year. He's missing Jordan Tyson, a first-round draft pick in the upcoming NFL draft, most likely. Missing Xavier Alfred, the heartbeat of their defense. And still, 7-3? 6-3?
7-3.
7-3. 25th in the CFP rankings. With Jeff freaking Sims at quarterback. The interception machine.
And
so I get it.
You use the word dreadful for Arizona State fans. That's exactly where my mind went. Because if you're a fan and your favorite team, your school can't come up with enough NIL dollars to keep a guy like Kenny Dillingham and Sam Levitt, then you've peaked. You've peaked because there's nobody else that's going to come in there and be better for that program, ever. I mean, if you can't make that type of financial commitment, then
you can't.
Frankly, as a fan base, you don't have an interest in winning a college football national championship or winning Big 12 championships because, like, this is it. These are your guys. These are the guys that are going to get you there. There's not another Kenny Dillingham walking through the door. So my point is, like, if those guys leave, the whole perception of Arizona State athletics and what their ceiling is year after year changes drastically in my eyes.
And look, Dillingham has done everything he possibly can. He's coached incredibly well. This year is a great example of that. And he's lobbied the whole way.
He wants to be there.
Fans, we need your support. NIL, we need your support. Local businesses, we need your support. He continues to pound that drum. You think if you were the head coach at LSU, you'd have to say that? Hey, come out to Death Valley this weekend. We really need to fill the place up.
They'd back up a semi full of money for that guy. I mean,
and not just for him, but for the program.
Yes.
And the support. Like, Dillingham at weeks is having to beg people to come to the stadium.
And like, my goodness, it's Phoenix. It's Phoenix, Arizona. Golf capital of the world. Like, there's money everywhere in that city.
Yeah, there's definitely money in the banana stand. That's James Westling. I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. All right, a new segment coming up next. We'll see how it goes. The moderator.
Love the optimism.
The moderator is next. With James Westling, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo on Big 12 Radio, heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Modelo. We're going to try something new today and see how this experiment goes. I'm going to be honest, I'm not very optimistic.
I love the positivity. Okay.
James Westling, Ari Tepkin, producer Taman. So last
Positive
week,
Pete over here.
Positive Pete. No, it's going to go great. You've got very timely topics for this conversation.
Super timely. You know who Arizona State needs to call? They need to call James Harden. James Harden needs to be pouring money into the football program.
Yeah, what are James
He has his
Harden's-
jersey in the rafters.
What are James Harden's career's earnings in the NBA?
A lot.
It's in the hundreds of millions.
Yes.
James Harden. Okay, let's start here. How much do you think James Harden has made in the NBA? Career earnings.
200, 300 million?
And I'm just going straight through.
I feel like he signed multiple.
Straight through like guaranteed contracts. I'm not going endorsements. I'm not going projections, all that stuff.
I feel like he signed multiple $100 million contracts.
I'm going to go with $230 million.
$230 million.
Yeah, I'll take the over, but not by much. That's probably a pretty good number.
Yeah, that sounds about right. James Harden has made $411 million.
And he has no NBA playoff success to attribute to.
He's making $39.1 million for this season.
Over 400 million.
$411 million.
So then, I mean, we can comfortably say there's a pretty good chance he's made another 100 million at least in endorsements, or
yeah, he signed a $200 million contract back in 2015 with Adidas.
Okay.
2015.
So if my math is correct, that's $500 million.
With no rings to show for it.
Over. Yeah, you're right. 200.
Over.
Way over. I mean, and that's just one endorsement. Now, I can't imagine any other endorsement is going to get close to 200 million, but still. So 611 million based on how much he's made playing and his Adidas deal.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
Penny,
his
you gotta
career
have James
earnings from
Harden.
NBA contracts and endorsements have totaled over $560 million. He also has investments in soccer teams, real estate, among many other things.
That might be a guy that they should call.
I would call him.
Yeah.
I would call
He
him.
definitely has the money for it.
If I'm Kenny Dillingham, if I'm Sam Levitt's camp, I call James Harden.
Yeah.
Do you like football? You clearly like soccer. What about American football?
And James Harden shows up to many Sun Devil games. Kenny Dillingham needs to have that conversation.
Wait, he goes to football games?
Yeah. He does.
Does he?
Yes.
Okay.
He was at the Arizona State TCU game.
Why
earlier
can't he
this year.
just fund the football team?
I don't know. He's one of them.
All right.
All right. So this is that's producer Taman. This is the segment that came birthed from last week after James moderated an argument that Taman and I had. Taman Turner, our producer. I argued that Kyrie Irving is the most overrated player in the history of the NBA, and Taman is a huge Kyrie Irving fan, has a Kyrie mural in his house. He's a full-time fan. Get Taman some Modelo. But what we figured out from that segment was your gift, James. You have many gifts. We're still trying to figure out what those gifts are, but certainly one of them is your gift of moderation.
And I love a good moderation. All right, so when we launched this segment last week off the cuff, out of the blue, it all stemmed around Kyrie Irving, and it got our producer Taman really fired up. I've never seen that much passion from T-Chains over here. So we thought, hey, let's moderate some other topics. And then we realized we really don't know anything about Taman. What is he like? Outside of we know he doesn't like peanut butter. We know he's very picky when it comes to food. Now, he does drink whiskey, and maybe that's a topic we can moderate in real time. But let's start with, because I know Taman watches the NBA, load management in the NBA. Load management in the NBA, is that, or has it, arrived to college basketball with Darren Peterson? So how do we feel about load management in the NBA? Is this a smart strategy for these players, NBA or college, or is this just totally bad for the fans? These guys need to be playing 82 games a year. I don't care about that Achilles injury. I don't care about that torn ACL potentially. They need to be on the floor because we have sold tickets for the fans.
So it's important to note here that there appears to be some level of load management occurring with Darren Peterson in Kansas. That's not any information that I have. I'm not reporting anything. It's just, it feels like based on all of the conversations Bill Self has had publicly about Darren Peterson's various maladies, it's just an odd, bizarre situation that there's a lot of smoke around. So it feels like there's some load management happening there, right? Like at first he was out because of cramps. Then it's not cramps, it's a stomach bug, and then it was very ambiguous in terms of what he was dealing with, and then it became a hamstring injury, and it didn't just come out, as Bill Self said before the Champions Classic last night. As Shreyas Laddha put on X, Bill Self said, "Oh yeah, he's been dealing with some hamstring issues for quite some time," is what he said. So there appears to be a load management issue here. So Taman, I guess let's start with you. If James is going to be moderating an argument here with James's gift of moderation.
Yeah, gift of moderation. Basically just fact-checking you guys. So Taman, what are your thoughts on moderation? Because Kyrie Irving
is a champion of load management.
The champion of load management. He wrote the book on load management.
Played like one game in college.
Well, listen, based on this being about Darren Peterson, I personally think Kansas fans, no offense, Ari, are really jumping the gun on this. I mean, they are 5 games into the season, right? I understand the concern because he's the best player on the team, and I think Kansas fans are a little apprehensive for the simple fact that they really want to win, and they're not the same Kansas team of Bill Self that they had a few years ago, right? So I think that plays a part. They really want to see this incredible player that they're likely only going to see for one season really, really dominate, and they haven't seen that. So I get that. But I think there's obviously an injury there. I mean, I don't want to bring up the football aspect of it, but Kenny Dillingham once said that, he's going to do what's in the best self-interest for his players, right?
Best interest of his players, right. No, which makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think Bill Self is doing this. I don't think Darren Peterson's playing because he's actually really hurt, and he doesn't want to hurt not only his team down the line, but also Darren Peterson's NBA aspirations.
All right,
I think he knows that.
So there's 2 arguments here. There's the broad argument of load management, and then there's the specific argument.
Excuse me, sir. Taman still had 10 seconds on the clock. Okay.
I didn't realize we had a set allotment of time. This is a new wrinkle to this, moderator.
Bill Self.
Can you give us the rules of engagement before we engage?
Yeah, you got 98 seconds. Bill Self does historically ease his elite freshmen into the rotation early, even his McDonald's All-Americans. Now, sitting out entirely, that's a little bit different, but Grady Dick did really kind of ramp up his playing time through November and December. Josh Jackson didn't play a lot his first 5 games at Kansas and actually missed a couple his freshman year. Remember, Ochai Agbaji actually didn't even burn his red shirt until January. He was redshirting the first half of the season.
He was not even a star. I don't think he had any stars.
He didn't. He was a 3-star. I'm just saying that's my fact check on Taman. Okay, Ari, you have the floor now.
All right, so maybe Taman's right that KU fans and myself in particular are overreacting. It's just 5 games, so that is definitely an option here, which would be amazing if it's true. But I'm not doubting that there's an injury. I think there's a balance here between injury and load management that's happening because if it's been a hamstring injury this whole time, which Bill Self said before the game last night, he's been dealing with it for quite some time, then why not come out and say it, right? If the guy's got a hamstring injury, then say that from the start. Why are we talking about cramps and stomach bugs and everything else? Why aren't we just talking about hamstring injuries? So if he really is hurt, it really is a hamstring, and it's been going on for quote-unquote quite some time, then why hasn't it been a hamstring injury from the start?
I mean,
I don't even need 98 seconds, James.
I guess my follow-up to that would be, Ari, why do you hate Bill Self?
I don't. Bill Self's a Hall of Fame coach. He's won 2 national championships. He's been to 4 Final Fours. He's been incredible. He won like every Big 12 championship game. But yeah, I think after winning the title in 22, things have dramatically changed in college basketball and things have dramatically changed for Kansas. With that being said, it feels like this isn't on Bill Self, and he's being fed information that's leading him to talk publicly about an injury that he doesn't know a ton about.
Well, let me tell you about
he's trying to manage he's trying to manage what he's being told behind the scenes by some of Darren Peterson's people on the load management side. He's trying to manage what he's saying publicly about it.
He's trying to manage the load of the load management.
There you go. Thank you.
All right, so here's your approximate recovery time for these hamstring injuries. We don't know if it's a grade 1, we don't know if it's a grade 2, or if it's a grade 3.
We don't know anything.
We don't know anything. But if it was a grade 1, which is a mild strain, it can be 1 to 3 weeks. How many weeks has Darren Peterson been out?
He's missed 3 games.
He's missed 3 games, but how many weeks?
He's played one full
1
game
week.
this season.
And yeah, it's 1 week.
He's played in one full game. He's been pulled at half. He's played in 3 or 4.
He played the North Carolina game, and he played the first half of the Green Bay game.
Today is November 19th. How many minutes did he play against Green Bay? Because that was on November 3rd. That was 16 days ago. Okay, the North Carolina game. Did he play the entire game against North Carolina?
Yes, that's the only game he played the entire game.
Okay, that was November 7th. So we are 12 days removed from that game.
He played 21 minutes against Green Bay.
So 12 days is not quite 2 weeks. So even if he has a grade 1 mild strain hamstring injury, it can be 1 to 3 weeks. Soreness, tightness, limited strength loss, small micro tears. Now a grade 2, if this is a grade 2, now we're talking partial tear. We're talking 4 to 8 weeks. Noticeable pain, swelling, bruising, limited running and movement.
Well, here's the thing you can plug into
If it's a grade 3, it's 8 to 12 weeks.
So what is it? What is it? MD, MedMD, not MD. What's the
WebMD.
Thank you, WebMD. MedMD would
awesome
be
drop.
way too redundant. Find out what WebMD says about how easily a grade 1 can turn into a grade 2 if not handled properly.
Okay.
I mean,
So I'm wondering. I'm just looking at Kansas' schedule.
but then why wasn't it a hamstring from the start? Right? If he's really got a legitimate hamstring
I think
injury.
that's a fair question. I think that's a fair question because you don't really know. But, I mean, I'm looking at Kansas' schedule. They play Notre Dame on the 24th, Syracuse on the 25th, and UConn on the 2nd. Is UConn his target date to come back?
Yes.
And it's at the field house. That's a great game for him to come back, and you're playing a top team. You're at home to make that grand appearance, to play great.
Okay, that's December 2nd. So that would be roughly 3 weeks from the initial hamstring injury.
Which a grade 1, we're assuming. I'm assuming.
Grade 1 to grade 2 hamstring escalation can happen very easily if the athlete doesn't fully rehab the muscle. Okay, a grade 1 means we've got some micro tears. If you push that muscle too early, I'm talking sprinting, explosive cuts, max acceleration, all basketball things, you're loading that tissue that isn't fully healed. If it rips further, easily could turn into a partial tear, which would be a grade 2. Now, let me tell you this. Re-injury rates for hamstrings are high, 20 to 30% in many studies.
Yeah, tough soft tissue injuries linger.
Yeah, there's no way I think this is a grade 2 or more because he hasn't played. I mean, if this had happened in his last game against North Carolina, I think this injury would be way worse and we would know about it by now.
The grade 1 to grade 2 tear usually happens within the first 2 or 3 weeks of the original injury if athletes rush back too soon. And remember that UConn game is going to be like right on week 3 of when this apparent injury took place. This is a slippery slope.
Are you moderating or just adding to it? You're doing a great job, by the way. You have the gift of moderation. We know that.
I think he plays the UConn game. Have no backing on it. I just think it's a perfect story.
Ari, your thoughts. Darren Peterson plays against UConn on December 2nd.
No. I'll believe it when I see it.
So when do you
Dude
think
has
he'll
played
play?
in one full game.
Dude has played in one full game.
When do you think he'll actually play?
I don't know. It's when I turn on my TV and I see it. Like they played 5 games, 2 exhibition games. He's played in one full game, 6 of 7.
I think that's an overreaction. That's the Kansas fan in Ari, where he's like apprehensive about, he's nervous about what if he doesn't play and we just have this horrible season and it just goes down the drain. I think that's what he's thinking there.
Or is it a bit of an overreaction on Taman's part because he desperately wants to see Darren Peterson against his beloved UConn Huskies?
That's it.
I would, to be the best, you got to beat the best. So I wouldn't mind him playing, but I just think the story is, I think this story is been way overblown. I think he's actually hurt, and I think he has they're being cautious with him. He's a great player. It's early in the season. If this were late in the season, I can understand where Ari was coming from. But this is early in the season, and they got to take a cautious approach.
Taman,
That's fair. That's completely fair, but I also have to go off of what I've seen. We aren't
It's
at
5
the end
games in.
We aren't at the end of the season, but
Even if it was in the middle of the season, I would understand. But this is early. This 5 games in. It's still mid-November. Thanksgiving hasn't even hit yet. This is a very early part of the season.
I hope you're right.
I
hope you're right.
If this were any other player besides Darren Peterson, we'd be like, oh, he's coming back.
So what we have here at this point, I would say Taman is in the camp of this is a majorly overblown overreaction, and that Darren Peterson will play this season.
Self said, quote, before the game last night, Peterson has had hamstring tightness, which is caused by a slight hamstring strain. So it seems like based on that, grade 1 would be at worst what it is.
That is grade 1. Slight strain, mild strain is grade 1. 1 to 3 weeks.
Until that subsides, he's not going to feel confident to play on it, which has been going on for a fairly significant amount of time. He also said, post-game radio, quote, last night, hopefully, and this is via Gary Bedore, hopefully we'll have him, Peterson, in Vegas, but I'm not banking on it. We've got to go out there and play better without him if we don't have him. Also, quote, until he's 100% healthy and he's not feeling pain, we're not going to put him out there, end quote.
So Taman, his team, this is overreaction. He'll be back. Aria's team, I don't know what the hell's going on. I'll believe it when I see it.
When you get to the NCAA tournament, you think any of those guys playing are 100%?
Of course not. I mean, that's a given. It's late.
So if we're waiting for him to be 100%.
That's Ari's fear.
The target date is potentially the UConn game on December 2nd.
All right, that's the moderator. Thank you, James, for moderating.
Great discussion. You're so welcome.
Taman Turner, our producer. Joseph Duarte of the Houston Chronicle joins us next. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. It's always great to catch up with our guy, Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. I am Ari Tepkin. He is James Westling. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. All right, let's talk Sprots, Houston basketball, Houston football with Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. Joseph, how are you?
Hey, good morning.
Morning. Great to see you, buddy. Now that we can watch you on Big 12 Studios, where you can find all the platforms we're on at big12studios.com. All right, I guess let's start with your reaction to Houston getting jumped after beating Auburn, basically in a road game. I guess Purdue's win over Alabama was better?
Yeah, I mean, these are the human polls, so, there's going to be that factor. Wasn't too much of a surprise. I thought that, the week before, maybe that was a little bit of a correction, maybe from what the voters were thinking in the preseason. Because Houston, when you look at who they played in that first week, I was a little surprised that they jumped into the number one spot. But, this thing is going to work its way out.
Sure.
These teams aren't going to go undefeated. So there will be multiple number ones through the season, but nothing to be alarmed of. Kelvin Sampson wasn't, didn't even address it. He was more interested in talking about his alma mater, UNC Pembroke, being in the top 25 of the Division II football poll. So that's the poll that matters to him right now, not the one where it has Houston either 1 or 2 in the AP or coaches poll.
Oh, man, that is the most Kelvin Sampson thing ever. That's amazing. But what is not Kelvin Sampson-like is playing so many freshmen. And Kingston Flemings gets Big 12 Player of the Week and Freshman of the Week. He balled out against Auburn. Chris Sunak was fantastic as well. Can you take us behind the scenes in terms of how these freshmen have fit in to the culture in the program?
You're right. This isn't something that we see at Houston, at least ever since Kelvin's been here and many years before. But they knew coming in, they had some spots to replace, and I think a lot of people felt like Chris Sunak would definitely be in the starting lineup in the front court. But Flemings, that was sort of, what do you do with him? You have Milos Uzan, and what Kelvin has done early is found a way to kind of have a double point guard lineup on the court for a majority of the game. And then at one point, the last couple of games, they've had 3 freshmen with Isaiah Harwell. So definitely different time for Houston Cougar basketball. But these two, again, Sinek comes in, and really I thought the scoring part of his game is what people thought he would bring, but the rebounding aspect, that's a Kelvin trademark that he has come in and adapted and learned from the get-go. But you mentioned Flemings. I mean, you can't have a better 5 games that he's had, or 4 games, back-to-back 20-point games, 22 against Auburn. The freshman accounted for 33 of 39 points in the first half the other night in what was a road game. So they've clearly stepped up, and you don't have them in that first half. That one could have got ugly, but Flemings and Snack have been as good, or a little bit better in Fleming's case, as advertised.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that there's a possibility that this team could actually be better than last year's squad?
It's early. You think about last year at this time, and they were about to go to Las Vegas, and they would come out of that 4-3, and everybody thought that the world was about to end. And
right.
I believe from that point they went 31-2 the rest of the way. So probably a little bit early to put that where this team could be. But I think the ceiling is extremely high. They're deeper, or they have the chance to be deeper than they were last year. I think there's some things that they need to figure out. Defensively, they're still solid, but Kelvin pretty much demands perfection in that regard. And then, LJ Cryer brought so much to the team in terms of that guy who could just turn it on and give you big points down the stretch. I'm not quite sure if that person is there yet, but that eventually I think is going to be Kingston Flemings. I think he's a guy that can take over a game, and he showed it in that first half Sunday.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Let's say Houston is down by a point with 30 seconds to go. Who's taking that final shot for them? Do you lean Fleming's even right now, or do you think we'll see that develop over the course of the season?
I think it'll develop. I think Emmanuel Sharp still becomes a guy that you factor. And let's not discount Milos Uzan's offensive production. He had a big 3 Sunday against Auburn when things were getting real tight there late in the second half. Same kind of play and shot that he made to beat Arizona. He had a big shot against Texas Tech last year. So I wouldn't rule him out. I mean, Kelvin likes him in big game clutch situations. So it may not be the bam, bam, bam type of shooting that LJ could do, because, man, when LJ would get hot, I mean, you could have 3 or 4 or 5 3-pointers in a row. I don't think that's there yet, but I think they have at least those 3 guys that are capable of in crunch time, taking a big shot, or them feeling comfortable enough for them to take a shot.
What's next for Houston? I can't remember if they're going to Vegas.
Yeah, they go to Vegas. They play Ryder on Thursday night, who just played Texas last night. They open with Syracuse on Monday in Vegas. Then they play number 20 Tennessee. And then after that, it's kind of a TBA, depending on how the bracket plays out.
Joseph, for people that aren't familiar with the Players Era Festival, they call it, fill in our audience on what it is and how it works. Like, is there a bracket, or is it kind of a round robin? There's so many teams in it. Yeah. I think there's over 20 teams, right?
Yeah, I believe there's like 18 teams, so you obviously don't play everyone, but there's a formula that they use. You're guaranteed 3 games. Now, the first 2 games will set up what Wednesday looks like, and then you have the different tiers, and then you have the championship game, third place game, that type of stuff. But I mean, it's a loaded field. I think back to the day when the Maui Invitational was sort of the premier Thanksgiving week type game. You had Battle for Atlantis, even the Alaska Shootout, but this one has just taken over. They have grand plans. I believe they even expanded even more in the next couple of years, but it's NIL driven. Last year, every team was guaranteed $1 million. I think the winner got an extra $1 million or so. I believe the purse is like over $20 million this year alone. So a lot of money, and that's kind of the direction that these multi-team events are going, where schools are going to put one of these in if they can, and sometimes get an extra game if you could tie it to NIL just to pay for all the rev share stuff that's just started in the past year.
Curious from a football perspective, Joseph, as we're talking with Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle, are you surprised to see Houston find itself in the college football playoff top 25 at 23 this week?
You sort of, the way the week, the 12, 14 teams, that's where the news is. That's where all the jockeying for position and the actual field for the playoff is. But, Houston, I guess by attrition, I thought they'd get in this week. Just there was 4 teams in that bottom half of the top 25 that lost. So they moved into both of the human polls. So you figured they had a pretty good shot. I think for them, it's just, they have a long shot chance of getting to the Big 12 championship game. So for Willie Fritz, this is a type of building block and momentum that you can kind of take of what they've done this year and how special of a year to already double their wins, to be bowl eligible. So it was a good moment for them. I don't think it carries a lot of significance. Now, if they don't lose to West Virginia a couple of weeks ago, which I think they're still scratching their heads on, then they're a one-loss team, and they're very much in the controllable part of getting to Arlington for the Big 12 championship. So a lot of what ifs, but being in that 25 ranked college football playoff ranking is pretty cool if you're Willie Fritz and the Cougars right now.
Yeah, I mean, in year 2 to be 8-2 and 5-2 in the league, 10 games in. If somebody had shown you that before the season, think about how exciting that would have been for Houston. And then what does that mean even for next year?
Oh, it's huge because, I thought they'd be maybe a 7-win team this year, but they have a chance to beat TCU and Baylor. You go 10-2 in the regular season in a bowl, and you have a chance for an 11th win. That's a huge springboard because guess what? You've got Keyshawn Henderson and a really highly rated signing class coming in, and he's the quarterback of the future here. highest rated signee since Ed Oliver. So they're trending in the right direction. And I think, and we've talked about this before, it wouldn't surprise me within, the next year to 2 years, they're in Arlington playing for a Big 12 championship.
Talk with Joseph Duarte of the Houston Chronicle. Joseph, I'm curious, has Houston fan engagement, sort of met where Houston football is? So we've seen some of these, and I know the athletic director, Eddie Nunez, talked about this, like having so many weekday games hurts home attendance. Kind of what's your thought overall on that? And if you feel like the fan base has met where the football team is?
Yeah, the schedule this year has been odd. They've had, the season opener was a Thursday night. The Colorado game was a Friday night. And then, you've had some 11 a.m. kickoff. So, not to just bash on the fan base, because it's happened at a lot of places. It's happening in many places with just attendance down, or you see crowd shots where it's just not a well attended game. But this is an 8-win team, and they it's not a this year problem. They've struggled with attendance in the past. It's a major city. There's a lot to do here. But to answer your question, other than maybe the Tech game and the Colorado game, it's been hard for them to draw this year, and that's something that Eddie Nunez has publicly said that in the offseason they're going to address the fan experience, how to correct some of the issues, whether it's the concessions, parking, traffic control. They're basically any other school. You could kind of fill in the blank with any school and probably has the same problems as Houston's having, but they at some point they'll get the attendance figured out, and this is a team that I think will be exciting to watch and draw crowds, moving forward in the future.
Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. So Connor Wegman's a junior. They've got this 5-star blue chip quarterback coming in Keyshawn Henderson. Just your opinion on how Houston will handle that next year, that quarterback position, and what do you do with Henderson?
Yeah, I mean, right now there's no indication that Connor won't be back. He's got one more year of eligibility. So let's just go with the fact that he's back. Keyshawn's going to enroll in January, so he'll be able to participate in in spring practice. And you know how things are, guys. There's no more red shirt. If a guy's, with NIL and rev share, you got to get him in the game. Now, Willie, depending on how things go next year, could use that 4-game rule and preserve a year. I don't see him just coming in from day one and being the guy. I think the plan is to have him learn and kind of develop, and you have Wegman, who's an experienced quarterback, but just watching this kid and knowing how competitive he is and the height that's going to be there, I think if you're the Cougars, you find a way to get him on the field next year and hopefully make an impact. Now they've got another freshman quarterback right now, Austin Carlisle. Yeah. Many thought that he would somehow figure in the mix this year to at least get some work, get some stuff. He's kind of had bit pieces, he's working in the slot the last few games. I don't know what the future holds for him, but now you're going to have 2 really young quarterbacks that are really talented that could be your starter and backup, in the future. But yeah, they're going to have to really look through things and maybe have some packages where Keyshawn's on the field and maybe like a wildcat or something and take advantage of his playmaking ability.
Yeah, and I guess my last question to you, Joseph, is from an NIL perspective, how concerning is it considering Houston lost some of their top end players last year? McCutcheon on the defensive end, and then with this year, will Carlos Allen be on the way out? Like, where's the NIL for Houston, and can they retain some of these players?
Yeah, that's the big question. Last year, AJ Halsey, Jeremiah Wilson, those were 2 of their best defensive players. They got offers to go to LSU and Florida State. So the threat is always there. You're going to lose guys to the NFL. Tanner Koziel will be gone. Guys that you only expected to have 1 year. But the threat is there to how do you retain guys in the offseason? And that's Houston's challenge. They're not one of the big money NIL programs, but they are all in on rev share, so that's one thing that they have, and they have made strides with NIL and trying to to have that as the supplement to what they're doing with rev share. But like, a guy like Keyshawn Henderson, he's getting the type of quarterback money that you're seeing thrown around nationally for guys that are coming in. They're not going to be Texas Tech caliber money, but nobody is. I mean, nobody's throwing that kind of money around, and if they do, they're very selective about it. So Houston's just going to have to be wise, play with the money that they have, and play with it, smartly, and then see if it's enough to keep some of these guys. But they've done all right so far. They've got about 3 really 4-star or better prospects coming in for this next year. And then you look at basketball. They're getting guys. The guys that they have in basketball. The interesting thing is that they could have gotten more money anywhere, but they wanted to play for Kelvin Sampson, and the sort of the realization is you're going to get that money on the back end when you go pro, because he's going to make you better, and you're going to 2 of them are going to be lottery picks at this point. So there's a lot of different ways how the school is navigating NIL.
Joseph Duarte, Houston Chronicle. Joseph, you're the best, buddy. Great to talk to you.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you. Joseph Duarte joining us here, Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. All right, it's time to power rank our top 5, which I think is pretty obvious. We'll see if we have any discrepancies between the two of us next. This is Big 12 Radio with James Wesley. I'm Ari Tepkin. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. Of course, you can always catch Big 12 Today on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, or tune in on demand. And, of course, this show replays twice after it's live, so you can catch it most times on TuneIn Radio. So make sure to download it and search Big 12 Today. You can also find all the platforms that Big 12 Studios is on by searching big12studios.com. All right, Chris Cartman, Sun Devil Source, joins us coming up in about 15 minutes from now to help us break down what's going on in Tempe. But it's time to power rank because, remember, on Wednesdays, it's power ranking day. We power rank the top 5 teams of the Big 12, then we power rank something random. It's not good enough to just have things in this world.
Oh, no.
You have to power rank them accordingly.
Yes.
So that is what we do on Wednesdays. We put our pants on one leg at a time, like most people, but when our pants are on Wednesdays, we power rank.
Power rank them.
That's right. And now that we're in studio, on video, we have to put our pants on every day.
We do.
Which is an unfortunate byproduct of that. With that being said, let's power rank the top 5 teams in the Big 12.
Number 5.
James?
All right, I have Cincinnati out of my power rankings this week because I'm ranking these teams as if I'm a college football playoff committee member, and Cincinnati has only played one of the 5 teams that I have in my top 5, and they're 0-1. So I look at strength of record. I look at the head-to-heads. I look at all that stuff. I've got Arizona State at number 5, the great mystery box that is the Sun Devils. But Kenny Dillingham, even with Jeff Sims at quarterback, has them rolling. For them to be 7-3 and 5-2. By the way, they're the exact same record in conference play that they were this same weekend a year ago, and they somehow made the Big 12 championship game. I've got Arizona State at number 5.
Yeah, I, again, think based on the CFP rankings, this is probably an obvious top 5 here because you're balancing kind of where they are today with what they've done overall, and I think Arizona State clearly number 5. And this is a testament to how good of a coach Kenny Dillingham is. Last year was a breakthrough year, but to do it this year with the lack of talent is incredible and speaks to the culture of the program that he's built. Jeff Sims was a turnover machine literally every other stop he's been. It's now the second straight year in the same offense. And, I mean, is he elite Sam Leavitt level? No, but he's doing what he needs to win football games. And in conjunction with a guy like Derek Eusebio, who's a second or third team type guy. You don't have Jordan Tice. You don't have the quarterback of your defense. You've got undersized linebacker and Jordan Crooks. It's kind of amazing what Kenny Dillingham's doing. Arizona State, number 5.
Number 4.
Number 4 for me are the Houston Cougars, who check in the top 25 in the AP poll and the college football playoff. Now, they have avoided the teams at the top of the conference outside of Texas Tech. They haven't played BYU. They didn't play Utah this year, but they've still been really impressive. And I've got them one spot above Arizona State because Houston won that head-to-head matchup. I think you could make the case that Arizona State is surging, and if they played today, might win that football game. But that doesn't take away from what Houston has done this season at 5-2 in league play. A lot of talent on that team that's starting to come together for Willie Fritz.
Yeah, and another look at how good this coach is type team. I also have Houston at 4. Again, we're probably going to have the same top 5.
I think so.
Yeah. Connor Wigman has not been nearly as good the last few weeks. He's had some turnover issues, and yet despite that, they're still winning games. I mean, when you factor in the players that they lost through the portal, they're top-end defensive players, and yet what they brought back, still getting guys. They lose Halsey, but McCutcheon's there, and he kind of takes over in that spot. Rogers takes over. So, I mean, it just goes to show you, or Allen, excuse me, how much, how good this team is with their coach because of the talent that they lose, and yet they're still really good.
Number 3.
Yeah, number 3 is where I have Utah. I mean, Utah's identity is really come into focus this season. They've gotten back to their roots, but Devin Dampier appears to be healthy. And then the added wrinkle of Bird Ficklin. I really think that takes them from a top 15 team to playing at a top 10 caliber level. Like they're 7th in EPA, they're 7th in the ESPN, strength of record, and all the metrics that they look at. So you can make a case that they're too low in the college football playoff. And maybe they would beat BYU head-to-head right now, but the bottom line is BYU won that matchup, which is why I have these teams ranked where they are.
It's important to note, James and I do not tell each other who our top 5 are. Last week, we both had BYU below Utah. This week, we both have Utah below BYU. It's almost as if, and this is how I did it, I'm not going to underrate BYU as much as the CFP committee is.
Yeah.
I'm taking a stand. I love everything you just said about Utah, including the Bird Ficklin wrinkle, and would love to see him now in the backfield with Devin Dampier. There's a lot of interesting stuff they could do with both of them in the backfield at the same time. Try to stop that rushing attack. So I also have Utah at number 3. That is a team with legitimate, playoff upside.
Number 2.
Yeah, number 2 is BYU for me, and really, I had questions about how they would play against TCU Saturday night. This was the same week a year ago in which they lost to Kansas, and man, did they slam the door shut on any possibility of that happening again. That defense is flat out nasty. They have shown that their physicality is a nightmare for teams that cannot match them in that category. LJ Martin appears to be healthy. Bear Bachmeier continues to get better. I think, like Utah, this is another top 10 caliber team. They just haven't won in as flashy of manner. But you can make the case that if they win their next couple of games and the way they beat TCU, those are style points for BYU. Even though they're not chasing style points, that doesn't mean that they're not delivering.
Yeah, and look, at Cincinnati this week, huge opportunity. If they finish 11-1 and then lost to Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game, and they're 11-2 and they're not in the playoff, it's a joke. Based on resume, based on things we've talked about earlier, BYU clearly number 2. Opportunistic defense. We didn't think that year over year turnovers would be as sustainable as they've been for them, but that is just a dominant force on defense with Jay Hill at the helm there. BYU number 2.
Number 1.
Number 1 for me is where I have, obviously, the Texas Tech Red Raiders.
Ooh, I thought you were going to go K-State number 1.
Jacob Rodriguez, Heisman talk, needs more touchdowns, needs more touches, right? Talking about all these quarterbacks. So they put him in the Wildcat formation, and he runs it in for a score. Texas Tech, I think, they're in. But for BYU, I think how the Texas Tech-BYU potential Big 12 championship game matchup goes for BYU will determine their fate more so than Texas Tech. Loved seeing them in the top 5 this week in the college football playoff rankings.
All right, number 1's Texas Tech. No explanation needed. Let's get to our random power ranking today. So on the anniversary of the Nintendo Wii being released, Nintendo released Wii, which was the first game console they'd released in a long time, on November 19th, 2006. So we figured let's power rank the top 5 video game consoles ever. Easy list to put together, and I'm sure nobody will disagree with our list.
Super easy.
Number 5.
So number 5, you told me right before this segment that, hey, anything goes. Okay, you said anything goes. You said we can debate what is a console and what isn't a console. Is a Nokia cell phone a console?
Wow. Okay, it's your power rankings,
It's my
James.
power rankings because the Snake game on that phone it revolutionized the gaming industry. The OG mobile game before mobile games existed.
That's a fair point.
Unbreakable phone, unlikable phone. But, that thing was rock solid, and I played that Snake game for hours.
So you've got the Nokia block.
Yep.
Number
Old school.
5.
But what color was your phone cover?
Oh, I had tons of different ones.
Right?
I remember I had a Kansas Jayhawks
Ooh,
phone cover. Oh, yeah.
I didn't even know they were personalizing phone cases back then.
Yeah, well, it was a cover. It was more of a cover.
Oh,
face
gotcha.
cover.
Okay, I went with the bright red. Just bright red. I wanted that baby to pop. I wanted everybody to know that I had a cell phone.
All right, number 5 for me is the Nintendo Switch, which I didn't really play a ton until we got one for our kids a couple of years ago, and I very much enjoyed it. So, the power ranking is what it is in terms of our own individual experiences, so this may differ very much from many others, and I'm sure a lot of other gamers are listening to this like, the Switch! Have you played the Xbox or the PlayStation? Easy. Nintendo Switch number 5 for me.
Number 4.
Man, I'm going with the ancestor of the group, the Atari. Can you get across that road? Taman, the Atari walked so everybody else could run.
It's true,
I
but
agree. You guys just sound so old.
Well, yeah, it came out in 1977, James. You weren't even born yet.
No, but my dad had one, and I played it a couple of times, and it was sweet. All right, simple joystick, simple games, and that baby
So you've
rocked.
got Snake and Atari, 5 and 4 in your
Yeah, we'll
list
get to
here.
the newer generation games coming up soon.
All right, cool. Number 4 for me is the Nomad. Do you remember the Nomad?
No.
Okay, so the
I don't remember the
Nomad,
Nomad because nobody played it.
and this is why Switch is so amazing. You can take Switch on the road with you and play it. The Nomad allowed you to take Sega games with you and play it on the road. So whereas with Game Boy, you could play Game Boy games, the Nomad allowed you to play Sega games. You didn't need specific games. And it was the first console that allows you to take it on the road, take your normal system that was huge, needed a bunch of plugs onto the road with you. So everybody played the Nomad, James. It was very much ahead of its time because it's what the Switch basically became. Nomad, number 4 for me.
Number 3.
Yeah, the cool kids played the Nomad, but the cooler kids played the original Sega Genesis. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, you could
NBA
take the
Jam.
games with you on the road, all of those games.
All right. If you weren't blowing into that cartridge, you weren't doing it right. The Sega Genesis, number 3.
Sega's number 3 for you?
Sega Genesis,
Sega!
number 3.
Number 3 for me is Nintendo 64.
They also had a sweet 94 college football game I would play all the time.
Arguably GoldenEye, the greatest video game ever made. Nintendo 64 has some of the elite of the elites. I even think Mario Kart existed on Super Nintendo, but didn't really exist until Nintendo 64. N64 was a game changer. I still remember when it came out. Number 3 for me.
Number 2.
I don't have any Nintendo products on my power rankings because I never played the Nintendo. They didn't have sports games. They had the racing games. I was into the sports game. Number 2 is the modern powerhouse that is the PS5, the PlayStation 5. It's got the 4K. It's got the
That
Lightning
was a
SSD.
dramatic turn there.
It's got the next generation everything. It's got storage. It's got all the bells and whistles. PlayStation 5, new age. There's a reason why there hasn't been a PlayStation 6.
James, your 90s kid card has been revoked if you haven't played a Nintendo game.
Because all I did is play NBA Jam and College Football 94. Madden.
Number 2 for me is going to be... I'm going to go with Nintendo.
Just
the OG.
Nintendo.
Yeah, the original Nintendo, which came out the same year I was born, so I feel like there's an important there. I mean, the original Mario, the original Donkey Kong, original Zelda. I mean, yeah. Incredible list of games. I'm a big Nintendo fan, if you can't tell from my list. I've got 3 Nintendo products on my top 5 game console, and the original Nintendo, number 2.
I didn't realize...
Go ahead.
I didn't realize just how many consoles...
Nintendo has made?
Everybody's made. Like, we're doing our top 5. We're not going to have a single console...
Well, I mean, think about it like this, James. Blizzard, which makes tons of video games today, is a billion-dollar industry itself. Blizzard, a billion-dollar, maybe even more than that, itself. And that's not even counting the consoles itself.
Yeah.
I just have to say that Ari's list is killing it. Sorry, James.
Okay.
Number 1.
All right, now I hate Taman.
I mean, it's an opinion-based thing here, James, but your opinion is clearly wrong. Thanks, Taman, for backing me up here.
Number 1 is PlayStation 2, PS2, the Dynasty, best-selling console ever, all time. If a console had a blue blood era, this would have been it. You've got all the Madden games. You've got the original Grand Theft Auto. You've got all the heavy hitters that debuted on the PS2.
I want to throw my chair right now.
He redeemed himself a little bit there. PlayStation 2 was really good.
PlayStation 2 is also my number 1. It's why I want to throw a chair.
Oh!
How do you
One crossover.
You have a horrible list. It's just atrocious. And then you finish it off, you cap it off with easily the greatest video game console ever, the GOAT, as you mentioned, still sold the most video game consoles of all time in PlayStation 2. It also was such a dual threat because it was the one console when it came out that also played DVDs. So, man, I feel old. In college, when you had to play DVDs, it was like, oh, I've got a PlayStation 2. Perfect. Got the games and the DVDs in the same spot. But it was a game changer. I don't think there's any question. PlayStation 2 changed the game. I remember when PlayStation 1 came out, huge fan of PlayStation 1, but PlayStation 2 changed the whole thing.
What do you think the top-selling PlayStation 2 game of all time was?
Madden?
Actually, no.
Grand Theft Auto?
That was number 2.
Oh, those are the 2 biggest games I played in college on PlayStation 2.
But as soon as I say this,
Vice City.
You're all going to say, oh, man, everybody played this game, whether you like the sport or not. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3.
I believe it.
Tony Hawk's skateboarding games were insane.
No, I do remember them. I just
Ari, I think it was for the younger millennials who went all in on it. Like my.
What about Tiger Woods? I feel like that was the PGA game was a huge one too.
Yeah, that was a big one. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
What up, CJ?
Actually, okay, in terms of copies sold, that's number 1 all time. And then Gran Turismo 3 is number 2.
I maintain Vice City was better than San Andreas because San Andreas was too big.
Vice City was number 3. Highest rated sports game would have been Madden 05.
Yeah, I'm still mad that
was a great game.
wasn't Tony Hawk. I don't understand. That's a sports game.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I'm still mad that he had the right video game console for number 1. It's really upsetting. If he had Nokia cell phone
You wanted to
at
just
number 5.
destroy my list, and then just when you thought
So
I was
mad.
down and out, I totally redeemed myself.
No, not totally.
Don't forget about Guitar Hero 2.
James Westling, Ari Tepkin, Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. Next is our buddy Chris Cartman from Sun Devil Sorts. What the F is going on in Tempe? That's next. This is Big 12 Radio. Heard on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. If you want to know what's really going on at Tempe, you got to follow sundevilsource.com and our next guest, Chris Cartman, along with James Westling. I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are presented by Modelo and heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. And you can see if you're on with Big 12 Studios with us, Chris Cartman now from his great office, which has Pat Tillman behind him. All right, Chris, a lot of smoke around Tempe right now. And I love what you wrote about the Sam Levitt situation, and that is, if people have been paying attention to what you've been saying at Sun Devil Source, none of the Sam Levitt stuff should be a surprise.
Yeah, not at all. A couple weeks ago, behind my paywall, I said Sam Levitt was 90% maybe likely to return to college due to the injury and draft stock going down, and probably only 50-50 or thereabouts to return to ASU. We're in annual free agency in college football. I think people understand that. Kenny Dillingham expressed on Saturday after ASU's win over West Virginia that he feels very supported by the university. At the same time, he said Monday that more business leaders, local businesses in the community and high net worth boosters need to step up. This is more like Major League Baseball than the NFL in terms of the haves versus the have-nots. And there's no unlimited budget that you have to work with at a place like Arizona State. And so decisions are two-way streets. Sam Levitt, his camp, they're going to evaluate the marketplace and try to get an educated perspective about what's in his best interests to elevate his stock for the future NFL draft opportunities and how much money he can make. And Arizona State, needing to replace roughly 2/3 of its starters after this season, is going to have to make some decisions based upon the economics and if there's a delta between what Sam Levitt would make and what a transfer portal quarterback would make, and how much that money can buy other players that would help ASU move on from such a senior-laden roster.
All right, so break it down for us, and I guess both things can be true. It can be about the financial aspect of it, and then also trying to, live out his lifelong dream of playing in the NFL. On the surface, we see Arizona State is the best path for him to make it to the NFL because he's got Dillingham there, who tutored and mentored Justin Herbert. It'd be his third year in the system that he's familiar with. So which way do you lean in terms of why this is all transpired?
Yeah, I don't think it's a binary thing. And that's what I think people tend to make it, is not looking at all of the factors in total. So Sam Levitt's going to want to be paid well next year in college. But also Sam Levitt being paid well by ASU could make it a little bit more difficult to surround him with the type of talent that he wants to be surrounded by in order to help give him a greater likelihood of becoming a first-round draft pick. And so perhaps at other schools that are more well-heeled in NIL, and I think we know, there's a reason why the same schools, the Oregons and Ohio States and the Miamis and Georgias and Alabamas and Texas, is why they are where they're at in this current version of college football. It's because there's more money, not just the schools, because the revenue sharing piece is somewhat equal, but the NIL piece is not nearly equal. And ASU is not of that caliber at this point. It's aspiring to be. Kenny Dillingham has done a really great job of elevating the program, driving interest. The fan base is more engaged than ever. There's sellouts every game this season, but that doesn't change the economic circumstances such that ASU would then be on par with some of these other schools that Sam Levitt would be looking at were he to decide to transfer.
So let's dig a little bit deeper then, Chris. What's the NIL situation with ASU? Chris Hummer reported that they spent $18 million in rev share relative to the $20.5 million. We saw James Harden's career earnings are over $500 million. Why can't James Harden fund this? Give us a sense here of the booming NIL piece for Arizona State.
Yeah, so ASU is a scholarship expansion school. Went from 85 to 105 football scholarships, expanded scholarships in other sports. Those schools are required to put $2.5 million of the $20.5 million max rev share number towards scholarship expansion. That means 18 million. As Chris Hummer reported, about 75% of that's going to football. That is a standard thing across the country. So now you're looking at around 13.5 million maybe for football. The ASU's NIL has never been more than about $4 million in a season last year, this year. So that makes it more like a 17, 18 million number. Texas Tech, for example, has been reported to have a $35 million roster. So we're talking about twice as much money that's on the roster. And a lot of these other schools also have a lot more money. And ASU is bridging that gap. They're doing a very good job of bridging that gap with boosters and business people, and the university is encouraging that, I think. But that gap still exists. And this isn't like you have an unlimited amount of money to also make Sam Levitt happy and also bring in some of the best transfers from around the country to build a super team. This is not the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's not like that. And so if you're in Sam Levitt's camp, you're having a robust conversation right now about whether or not it's better for Levitt to go to a place that's more likely to have more star power talent around him. ASU's got to replace 4 offensive line starters. Other places are either going to have more of those guys back or have more money probably to work with. And the other piece of this that I think is getting lost in the sauce a bit is the House settlement requires all schools to adhere to this new College Sports Commission in theory with NIL and fair market valuation, but that is not being adhered to. If you listen to industry insiders and agents, many of whom I talk to, they're saying that that's being disregarded by collectives, by private boosters, rich people, billionaires who are directly working with those agents in order to secure some of the best players. And I think that until this thing gets a lot more mature in terms of the College Sports Commission or maybe a collective bargaining agreement, some regulating laws that are across the country, industry-wide standards, you're going to have this disparity that coupled with annual free agency and guys not having multi-year contracts, this is going to be the result of that.
We're talking with Chris Karpman. He is the Arizona State insider, SunDevilSource.com. He is a Heisman voter. So, Chris, what does that mean for Kenny Dillingham? Like, does this put his future in jeopardy in any way? We saw that he's, according to some betting site, he's now the favorite for, I think, the LSU job. Any movement there?
I don't think that he's leaving, and I can't say that with absolute confidence. But he expressed on Saturday after ASU beat West Virginia that he said, quote, "I was never leaving." He was very effusive in his compliments for ASU's leadership at the university between Michael Crow and Jim Rund, who oversees a bunch of things with the school, including athletics, and then Graham Rossini, the athletic director. They seem more aligned now than at any point in his first 3 years. And this is his home. Keep in mind that his wife is due to have a baby in just a couple months from now, 2-3 months from now. He lives next door to his sister. He grew up here. He's an alumnus. He really wants to live in Phoenix, Scottsdale, be here for the long haul. I think he understands that going to some other place where the expectations are sky high and maybe not even realistic in some cases is fraught with a lot of potential downside to someone's overall health stability. And he's not like a lot of the typical coaches, in my experience, in terms of chasing the fame and the attention and the proving something to yourself by going higher. I think that he would be very content with staying at ASU. Could Sam Levitt wanting to leave shake that up? It's possible, but I don't think so. I think that he more so feels like he's had good quarterbacks wherever he's been. Bo Nix at Oregon. He was at Memphis, and they did a great job with Brady White and others. He was at Florida State, and they had a good quarterback. So I think that in this era, he feels like he's already proven the ability to develop quarterbacks, and there would be a line of interested quarterbacks at a much lower price point who would be interested in transferring to ASU, such that he could still put together a very competitive team next season and build the overall trajectory of what he's doing in Tempe.
Chris, Kenny Dillingham told us last week when we had him on that, in terms of his future, he wants to be at a place that can win a national title. Based on some of the numbers you alluded to here, and the fact that Texas Tech is spending twice as much money in NIL than Arizona State, and so we know that Oregon or Georgia or Ohio State are spending at that level, if not higher. Can he win a national title at Arizona State? And is he there at 5 years? Is he in Tempe in 5 years?
He can win a national championship at ASU. Let's remember, last season, ASU was one play away, a third and long play away from beating Texas in the Peach Bowl in a CFP quarterfinal game. And if we
without Jordan Tyson.
Without Jordan Tyson, and if we think about that a little bit further, Texas and a lot of other schools that were in the playoff last year spent 5 times more money on their rosters between their benefactors, NIL, all that, right? Than ASU. ASU had a $3 to $4 million roster. Ohio State's AD talked about having a 20 million roster. I know Oregon, there's reporting that was around the same. That was a very common number. So ASU was outspent 5 to 1, still got there, right? Now we're talking about a 2 to 1 disparity. So that seems easier to me. I'm not a math guy, but that seems easier to me, a 2 to 1 disparity versus a 5 to 1 disparity. Yeah. And I think that Dillingham realizes that this is going to narrow further due to the likelihood of collective bargaining in coming years, some mechanism that gets this disparity under more control. And the reason I say that is because if you look at some of these red states, the conservative places around the country that care so much about football, I'm thinking about Oklahoma, Florida, right, and others, they don't want to see their teams be at a competitive disadvantage to the elite blue bloods, right? So how does that manifest? It manifests with their Congress people, their senators becoming involved based upon the conversations that they have with leaders at those schools and in those states. And I think that really we've been in this extremely disruptive period that's going to take several years before it's fully resolved, but it probably ends up with a healthier overall situation to make college football feel better and perform better across the board.
All right, Chris, one final question for you that's not football related. Basketball. What was your takeaway from the loss to Gonzaga, and is this team going to be better than we thought?
Yeah, a little bit better than I expected, for sure. Mo Odom is a really impressive playmaking point guard. Last year, I think he was 4th in assists nationally at Pepperdine. He had a great game against Gonzaga last year. I think even though Bobby Hurley's in his 11th season and he's had a bunch of really playmaking players and really good guards, Trey Holder, was incredible. Remy Martin, really good. Shannon Evans and others. I don't think they've had a creation point guard as good as Mo Odom. And then Massamba Diop, a 7-footer from Senegal, as a freshman, he's more impressive to me on the offensive end than either of Bobby Hurley's 2 most recent 5-star additions, Enoch Boakye and Jaden Quaintance. He's not as far along as Quaintance on the defensive end as a freshman, but his overall game is fairly impressive. I think they need the other guys around them to be able to make 3-pointers to open the floor up, and they need to be better with their transition defense and half-court defense and just get a little bit more locked in on that side. But they have a chance to do considerably better than I had anticipated. Hurley very much under fire, and he's a lame duck in his contract, 11th year. It's win or go home, I think, is his situation, and everybody kind of knows it around here. He had to bring in an entirely new roster. They have one returning scholarship player who's not even among their top 8 in the rotation. And I think that he did a better job than I had expected. I have to give him credit going the international route. 7 players from overseas that they brought in. A lot of those guys have a good feel and understanding for how to play the game, and they have good chemistry, and they're playing selfless basketball. And I think ASU's fans have been encouraged by what they've seen early on in the season. Now, don't get me wrong, they're probably not going to end up being an NCAA tournament team or anything along those lines, but I think they'll be more competitive than people expected.
But where in the world did they find more Masamba Diop, the 7'1" kid from Senegal that you referenced? I mean, I can't find him on many recruiting service websites. I mean, it's like this guy came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he was playing in Spain for one of the lower level professional teams. He had been with one of the more prominent teams in Spain when he was younger as a developmental player, and then they decided to go in a different direction, and he ended up moving down a level. But his talent is really terrific. He has great hands and feet, runs the floor, handles the ball. He has the ability to shoot it out to the 3-point line. Made a couple of early threes in one of the games. He's got post area presence, can contest shots. He's stronger than he looks, I think. He's got no like obvious flaw as it relates to his NBA draft stock and his upside. I think he's going to get drafted, maybe not next year, but within a couple years. I think he's a draft guy. I think he has a very good chance to play for a considerable length in the NBA if he reaches anywhere near his potential.
Chris Cartman, SunDevilSource.com. Yeah, this Levitt stuff wouldn't have been surprised if you subscribed to SunDevilSource.com. Chris, thanks for your time as always, buddy. Be well. Appreciate you.
My pleasure, Ari. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Chris Cartman, Sun Devil Source, joining us here. Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Today. Yeah, and you know, as all this stuff was circulating, you know, he's saying, yeah, we've been saying this for quite some time here. He's 50-50 in whether or not he's coming back. Now, look, maybe On 3 made it seem less than 50-50, but there's clearly a lot here going on, and Kenny has been working behind the scenes to try to make it work financially.
And it's clearly been going on for a while. So that's encouraging that this isn't a huge surprise internally. Like, I don't think that Arizona State's been blindsided by this. Now it's a blindside to us, and it's shocking. It's breaking news. But it all makes sense, you know, after the comments that Chris had just there about the NIL piece, the scholarship expansion piece. But 50-50 is actually better than what the reports would lead you to believe. I'll take 50-50 if I'm Arizona State. You know, coming into today, I felt like it was more 30-70. He's probably gone.
Yeah.
So 50-50 is okay. If you can get some pieces around him, and interesting note there from Chris that it's a lot about that too. You know, nothing's set in stone. There's a lot of moving parts, and how much can they pay him and also still be able to recruit talent around him, because to your point, they don't have Cam Scatteraboo. He's off to the NFL, obviously, and then they're not going to have Jordan Tyson next year. And then you've got to have good offensive linemen protecting a quarterback of that pedigree.
Coming up next, more on the college ball playoff, including a 24-team playoff in the future. You in on that, James? With James Wesley, I'm Ari Tepkin. This is Big 12 Today, presented by Modelo. Heard on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios. 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. Full reaction to the big stories on today's show. We are presented by Modelo. Of course, reacting to the college football playoff rankings. 5 Big 12 teams ranked, James, in the college football playoff top 25, with Arizona State at 25 and Houston at 23. But where it gets interesting is Tech at 5, which makes a ton of sense. Still not hosting, but that 5-12 matchup at home. And then BYU at 11 with Utah at 12. So the first team out, BYU. Second team out, Utah. And 5 SEC teams currently in the field. We'll see how much that gets reduced, but certainly a huge part of this is where BYU is relative to some of the standards that we've heard from the committee. And it feels like they're a little bit low, whether it's should there really be 5 SEC teams ahead, and should Notre Dame really be ahead of BYU?
And based off of the response from the College Football Playoff Committee when it comes to BYU and when it comes to Notre Dame, and even comparing Miami and Utah, a lot of talk about the style of play, stylistically, and I don't mean in terms of schematics, but I mean how quality are your losses, how quality are your wins, how are you beating people, are there common opponents? And for BYU, what was noted was the way they lost to Texas Tech. They were dominated in that football game. They lost by 22 points. The success rate, the EPA, all the efficiency metrics outside of just the total yards and the turnover margin favored Texas Tech. So my point with that is if the College Football Playoff Committee is going to lean into that, what happens if BYU loses again to Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship game? But let's say it's a really close game. Let's say it's a one-score game. Let's say BYU fixes all those things and it goes down to the wire. Then that argument of, well, BYU's out because of how they lost to Texas Tech totally goes out the window. And so in that case, if that's the reasoning for it, BYU should be in over probably a 5th SEC team or a Notre Dame team who played a half-hearted effort from Pitt over the weekend. Pitt said going into that game, yeah, this game doesn't matter for us. We just want to win the ACC championship game. Like, it couldn't be more obvious in terms of the quality of opponent that BYU's playing at this point in the season compared to a team that's playing as an independent against teams that game doesn't matter for them.
We also have talked about last night Kansas losing to Duke. I'm probably the most pessimistic one commenting on this game, as I've just seen an overwhelmingly positive response given that Kansas lost this game by 12. A game that was a 3-point game with 5 minutes left before Kansas went 0 for 4 from the floor and 0 for 6 from 3. Trey White was spectacular and kept Kansas in it. And yeah, I mean, I love the fight that they showed, but I guess I'm not as optimistic as others because I still see problems with 3-point shooting. I think when and if Darren Peterson returns, they're going to need good 3-point shooting, and I still don't think this team is good enough in that regard. 4 of 21. Can Trey White, who exploded in this game, still be as effective with less touches and the ball in his hands less? And then the curious case of Cole Rosario. Here's a guy that we thought coming into the year could be a good spot-up shooter for Kansas. He started dreadfully. He was 0 for 6 from 3 in this game, has just not had a good start, and Kansas overall 4 for 21 from 3, 19%.
I see both sides of it. I see the case that Flory Badunga held his own. I see the case that Melvin Council Jr. finally got on track to a certain degree. He had 15. I love that Trey White had a breakout game. But somebody's going to score for Kansas by default in a lot of ways. And I see the optimism that when Peterson comes back, if he's coming back, this could be a really good basketball team. But then to your point, there are some glaring red flags. The lack of bench play. Kansas only had 6 guys that scored in this game. They were out-rebounded by 11. They were dominated on the offensive glass. Duke had 13 offensive rebounds. And then the 3-point shooting. At some point, that becomes a major concern because Darren Peterson is a guy that he's going to create, but you have to be able to knock down shots. And Peterson's probably KU's best 3-point shooter, too. So as much as they're missing his playmaking, his athleticism, his closing ability, they're also missing his shooting. This, for the 3rd year in a row, doesn't appear to be a Kansas team that can knock down perimeter shots. 4 of 21, 19% in Big 12 play is not going to cut it against a league that's as strong as it's ever been.
Here's what Bill Self said following this loss about the pros and cons of the loss.
In the second half and within one possession, why do you think you weren't quite able to get over the hump there?
Well, when you play from behind, it puts so much pressure on you not to have any screw ups. And I think that, I'd have to go back, but if I'm not mistaken, we missed 4 free throw opportunities in a row. A front end and then a 2-shot foul. And, when you're playing from behind, you got to convert, every opportunity that you get. But I actually thought, we did some good things. We're a makeshift team right now. But I thought we did some good things. I thought we competed, hard. I thought we uglied the game up pretty well. And I don't think that, I haven't spoken to John, but I doubt he thought they ran, the most fluid offense that they've ever run and stuff. So there were some good things there, but the bottom line is when you got to get stops and you got to execute, we didn't really do that, I don't think, as well as we could have the last 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Basically, this was a close game, 3-point game with 5 minutes left. Kansas then proceeded to go 0 for 6 from the floor, 0 for 4 from 3 with the turnover. Not exactly what you want in winning time, but I think you pointed this out earlier, and it's a very important observation here. Darren Peterson should be the closer in that situation, so you feel like you're going to shoot a better percentage with Peterson in that situation as opposed to the offense that Kansas had down the stretch of that game last night.
I mean, you have to have a guy that in the final 4 minutes of a basketball game, when you have to have a basket, you have the ball in his hands and you know that something good's going to happen. He's either going to draw a crowd and make an outstanding pass and there's going to be somebody wide open, he's going to get to the foul line by getting downhill, or he's going to make a basket. And there are so many teams in the Big 12 that have that, and it's weird to see Kansas not. And it's also very foreign to hear Bill Self say, yeah, we had to really muddy up the game. Like, when's the last time a Kansas basketball team had to muddy up a game to hang with anybody? And that's what they had to do, and they still lost by 12. I think about Houston, they have 3 guys right now that I feel like could be a closer for them, probably led by Emmanuel Sharp, and as Joseph Duarte told us earlier on, that'll become Fleming's down the stretch. You think about Iowa State. They have their guy, Taman Lipsey's going to make a play. Probably not scoring, but he's going to make a play in terms of distributing. The other teams with Arizona, Jaden Bradley is that dude. He's going to make a play in the final 2 minutes of a game. At BYU, the obvious choice is A.J. DeBonsa. I mean, they're down big against UConn. He takes over with 21 of his 25 in the second half, and they almost win that basketball game. Everybody in the league has that guy, and KU's guy right now is sidelined with an injury.
And one last thing on this, and I want to get to the 2014 playoff, but, I think Bill Self's gone back and forth on whether or not to rest guys with 2 fouls in the first half. But Flory sat a significant portion of the first half. When Flory picked up his second foul and was auto-benched, Duke outscored Kansas 20-7. So, I get it. You're trying to manage the fouls and make sure he doesn't pick up a third before the second half, but, you also took yourself out of the game with a 20-7 run. That, in many ways, might have flipped this thing. Kansas had a 6-point lead when Flory picked up his second foul. Left the game basically at that point. I think it was the final 10 minutes of the first half. I get it. You're trying to manage not getting a third foul, but, you got scored 20-7. So, either you lose without Flory at the end or you lose because Flory's sitting for a significant portion of the game. That part of it, I think it's very old school thinking on resting a guy automatically with 2 fouls. But that might just be me. All right, Big 12 today, presented by Modelo. As we talk through a 12-team playoff, can I interest you in a 24-team playoff?
Why have 12 when we can have 24?
So Ross Dellinger from On3 and Yahoo Sports reporting Power Conference commissioners are exploring a new working group made up of their own athletic directors, 2 to 3 from each of the Big 10, SEC, ACC, and Big 12, to consider a variety of CFP formats. That, according to Ross Dellinger, as a launching point to the discussion, several Big 10 school administrators are socializing a concept to grant each Power Conference league an equal number of automatic qualifiers in a field of more than 20 teams. Various formats are expected to be under consideration, ranging from 16 to 28 to even 32 teams. James, thoughts?
To be honest, I don't hate it. Now, the December 1st deadline, it's basically here, okay, which means if there's no changes to the future of the college football playoff, we're stuck at 12 for the foreseeable future. And then there's no hard deadline after that. So I think with this, if we're reformulating the whole thing, this new plot line of a strategy is forming with multiple athletic director, led groups that you noted there, like that's going to take time. So that's going to put us at 12, I would say, for the immediate future, which I'm okay with. So to go from 12 to 24, yeah, that would be a big jump. But it sounds like they're going to take their time on this. I mean, Rich Clark, the college football playoff director, said, yeah, we didn't talk a lot about a format. We talked about a plan to get to a new format, which I like that better than just rushing into 16 and having this huge discrepancy where nobody's on the same page and, somebody has to, for lack of a better term, subside to the powers that be in that position, which could potentially really hurt the Big 12. So to keep it where it is now, based off of what's happened this year, I don't hate. And the idea of 24 it's kind of exciting.
Interesting. I hate it.
Okay.
It's far too many teams and far too many bad teams, quote unquote. Now, what I will say is I like it probably better than the 12 team, which puts way too much of an emphasis on a group of people being involved.
Right.
But the reality of it is the SEC will never agree to a 24-team playoff simply because then they'd have to do the SEC championship game.
Exactly.
And there's too much money involved in that. Now, with that being said, in a 12-team playoff, we're going to see more times than not the SEC championship game won't matter. I have a good feeling that this year, regardless of the outcome of the SEC title game, both teams are going to get a bid. Mm-hmm. So over the course of multiple years of that happening, and let's just say we do eventually get to a 16-team playoff, which I think will be the next expansion, I think that comes at the earliest 2027, but maybe even after that. Because to your point, this deadline of December 1st, it's not happening.
It's here.
So we're going to be in a 12-team playoff for 2026, but maybe 2027. There's clearly a huge distinction between where the SEC is and where the Big Ten is, and that may give us the 12-team in perpetuity. But I think eventually we get to 16 before – I don't think we go from 12 to 24. I think we'd go from 12 to 16 to 24, and it would take multiple years of the SEC title not being as important as it's been in the past because winning that game is not as important.
Right. And expansion past 16 teams, to your point, is likely going to kill off conference title games, which, I mean, we're inching closer to those really not mattering now for several of these conferences, definitely the SEC and the Big Ten.
And we appear to be in a situation this year where it will not matter for the Big Ten or the SEC.
But what if it helps the Big 12? What if it somehow someday helped the ACC? It helped them last year. Maybe that's the angle to get the Big Ten and the SEC to try and eliminate those. But like a 24-team playoff, the thing that it would do with college football, big picture, is think about all the coaching carousel moves that we've had this season. Could have as many as 40 jobs open this offseason. How many guys got fired mid-season? Because it's basically like, well, we're not going to make the college football playoff, so let's go ahead and make our move now. If that number expands from 12 to 24, I think it further magnifies, because it's easier to get into the college football playoff, that that's the new benchmark for everybody. Everybody, not just these programs that expect to be in the top 12 or top 10 perennially, but everybody. These teams that it's no longer about making a bowl game. Now it's about, can we have the type of season that gets them in a 24-team field, and if we don't, do we go another direction? It just moves the needle.
That's James Wesley. I'm Ari Temkin. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, presented by Modelo. You can find us on TuneIn. Make sure to download the TuneIn app and highlight the channel. Give us a heart, Big 12 Radio. And then, of course, on Big 12 Studios. You can find all the platforms for Big 12 Studios. Tubi, Roku, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube at big12studios.com. Big 12 Radio. This is Big 12 Today. This is the Big 12. This is a different league with James Westling. I am Ari Temkin. Big 12 Today brought to you by Modelo and the Full-Time Fan. And Modelo's Full-Time Fan Rules of the Week. It's a full list of fan rules. It's part of the Full-Time Fandom with Modelo. And I got to say, earlier in the show, in this new segment called The Moderator, in which you moderate a debate between myself and Taman Turner, our producer.
How many rules were broken?
The biggest one of all. Rule number 14, you may criticize your team, outsiders may not.
Oof.
Modelo approves.
Oof.
Taman said I was overreacting to Kansas, blah, 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 though he raised some good points. I can criticize my team, Taman. You cannot.
Hey, okay? I did say respectfully. Respectfully
I like
does not change the rule. I can criticize my team. Outsiders may not. Taman?
When that Kansas-UConn game comes and I'm on my ship, I'm going to send you an eye emoji just to see how you're doing.
You know what, guys? Life's too short.
I can feel my blood pressure rising just hearing that.
I'm going to be on vacation.
He's going to be using international data to talk smack.
So not only will you be annoyed that he's on vacation, we can start there, but then also if Kansas loses to UConn, Taman's going to be, the group chat's going to be off the tee chains.
How dare you have a vacation scheduled before you take this job?
Right?
How
dare
you?
How dare me?
Taman, we're team players here. There's no I in team, and there's no cruise line.
There is I in vacation.
Can't happen.
All right, Modelo's Full-Time Fan Rules of the Week. Rule number 14, you may criticize your team, outsiders may not.
What are some of the other rules?
We'll get to those as they come up.
Fantastic list.
Yeah, thank you. Big 12 Today, powered by Modelo, and, of course, the Fan Rules of the Week. All right, found this to be pretty interesting. We've talked a lot about defensive stop rate. And, Texas Tech continues to be at the front line on defensive stop rate. It's a metric that Max Olson from ESPN tracks each week. It's basically it's a measurement of success, the percentage of a defense's drives that ends in punts, turnovers, or a turnover on downs. So basically, stop rate is the percentage of times your defense does not give up points. Texas Tech continues to be number one through 10 games. They have gotten 83 stops on 83.5% of the drives against them. Ohio State, though, is second at 82.1%. And this week, Max Olson dug into the numbers a little bit. And what they're doing on defense is sort of ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ohio State is like a cheat code, and I think they're on a track here to winning a second consecutive national championship. Mm-hmm. So if you recall, their new defensive coordinator is longtime Bill Belichick assistant and former head coach in the NFL, Matt Patricia. Okay. The Buckeyes are not leading the country in sacks or in takeaways, but they are leading the way, as Max Olson writes, on a historic pace when it comes to playing less defense.
Yes.
So they don't play a lot of defense, and when they do, they're stopping you on defense. Ohio State's defense has been on the field for 550 snaps this season. Now, this is one less game they played than Texas Tech, but it's 74 fewer snaps than Texas A&M's defense, 75 fewer than Georgia's, and 111 fewer snaps than Texas Tech through those teams' first 10 games. Think about that. Ohio State has been on the field defensively for 550 snaps. Texas Tech's defense has been on the field for 666.
And that's a huge margin.
Sorry, for 661.
I
can do math, but occasionally.
It is a large margin. Ohio State, and not just Texas Tech, but everybody. So opponents are only running 53 plays against Ohio State in Big Ten play per game. That is the fewest for any Big Ten defense in the past 20-plus years. Okay? So Ohio State's defense is only on the field for about 10 drives per game, which means they have played over the course of a season right now, not just in terms of their schedule, but also snaps, an entire game less than all of those other teams you mentioned. Almost 2 less than Texas Tech, less than Texas A&M, less than Indiana, less than everybody else. And remember last year, their deep playoff run, Ryan Day said after the national championship that is part of their formula, is to have their players on the field less, which is why they don't run tempo anymore offensively. It's why defensively that is a major point of emphasis, is get the heck off the field. They don't give up explosives, and they get off the field. And then offensively, they eat and chew up clock so that they're poised for a deep run. And I think it's next level. I think this is an angle that nobody's taking into account, is just how well-rested they're going to be in the college football playoff, especially after a bye.
We talk about, player load management in the NBA and in college basketball. Ohio State is load managing the bleep out of their season. They did the same thing last year. And it's interesting because what it means is if you're playing them in the playoffs, looking at their film from in season is almost pointless because those same rules they're trying to go through the entire season with don't apply in the postseason. Like, they have an explosive offense that can score quickly. They choose not to use it as much.
Right.
They have at least 2, maybe 3 NFL wide receivers on their roster. Think about that.
Yep.
They're an explosive play waiting to happen, but to your point, they're chewing clock, they're running clock. So, if you are going to play Ohio State in a playoff game, throw out their in-season tape, because what you see from them offensively in season is going to be a lot different from what you're going to see from them in the postseason. They're not trying to chew up clock. They're trying to score points and use explosive plays, and they have the dudes to do it.
Right. I mean, their defense has been on the field with a lead in the football game on 80% of those snaps. Like, that is championship defensive DNA. The offense builds a lead, couple of explosives here and there, they're up by a score or two, and then they start chewing up that clock. And the defense is on the field with a lead 80% of the time, which also further kind of alters the opposing offenses. It shrinks their playbook. They get them in difficult situational football. So it's clicking for Ohio State. And if you think about, like, if Texas Tech or anybody, I'm just using Texas Tech as an example, play Ohio State in the college football playoff, you have to think that Ohio State's basically going to have 2 or 3 fewer games on their schedule because of those number of snaps that are going to grow at this rate between now, factor in the first-round games, and then a bye for Ohio State. I mean, it's only going to continue to mount. And Texas Tech, their defense, they were on the field for 11 drives against UCF. Not a bad number. And they stopped them 10 of those 11 drives. They have the 6 first-half shutouts. They have all the numbers. But that is something that I saw this same article and thought the same thing. Does Texas Tech have the depth and the horses in the college football playoff to make a deep run when their defense has been on the field that much
and
more?
Ohio State and Ryan Day seem to be calling plays to load manage the team. Like, Texas Tech's not doing that. Texas Tech's calling plays to score points. But think about it like this: Jeremiah Smith could very well be the number 1 pick in the upcoming NFL draft. Okay, I don't think he will be. It'll probably be a quarterback, but he'll be top 5 easily. He's 6'3", 225 pounds. He's going to test out of the world at the combine. Okay. He is the best receiver in college football, and it's not even close. He's 9th in total yardage in college football, okay? 900 yards. You look at Skylar Bell at Connecticut, has 93 receptions for 1,100 yards. Eric McAllister at TCU has 52 receptions for 941 yards. Smith, 69 catches for 902 and 10 touchdowns. Like, he's having a great year, but it feels like they're holding back on what he could possibly do. Oh, by the way, they also have Carnell Tate at wide receiver, who, has just a modest 700 yards. Like, they are calling plays to make sure that they're not scoring too quickly. They're very much managing their offensive play calling so that they are managing how much their defense is playing. Mm-hmm. It really is an incredible strategy, and it works when you have so much talent like Ohio State has.
Exactly, when you're that good. Now, BYU is another Big 12 program to highlight because they're kind of middle of the pack in stop rate.
Which is surprising, isn't it?
Very much so. Very much surprising. So they're stopping opponents on 64.6% of drives, right? So they're allowing like 2 points per drive. You could say that's a bend but don't break defense. I look at it more as they're an opportunistic defense, and they're a defense that they're leaning on their big plays, their explosives, their takeaways, special teams, being on the field offensively. Like defensively, EPA and success rate, they're 46th in the country out of 136 teams. So they're not elite by any means. Arizona's higher, Houston is higher, even Iowa State is higher. But it makes them fascinating because if they don't get those explosives, like the Texas Tech game, it can go really bad. But if they do win the turnover battle, if they do create those extra possessions that way, then they can beat about anybody. So I think it like last year for them, it all comes down to those explosive defensive plays, and I mean turnovers for the Cougars.
Yeah, you're totally right. 46th in defensive stop rate. They are giving up a punt, a turnover on downs, or a turnover on only 64.6% of their defensive possessions. So, yeah, it is turnover or famine for them for the most part in terms of being an elite defense, because we think of them as an elite defense, and as it turns out, the biggest thing saving BYU is turnovers.
Yep. And Utah checks in at number 7 nationally. So to see the discrepancy was eye-opening between Texas Tech, Utah, and then BYU. Because I think on the surface, we look at BYU as defensive-minded, defensive-oriented. That's what they're leaning on. As a top 10 should be right there with them defense. But the metrics say otherwise.
All right. Great stuff. James Westling, Taman Turner, our producer, Anthony Smith, our producer with Raycom Sports. Thanks to all of the folks that make this show happen. This has been Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Thanks, of course, to the great James Westling on social at James Westling. I am Ari Tepkin on social at Ari Sports. You've been listening to Big 12 Radio on TuneIn, streaming on Big 12 Studios. We're back tomorrow, but for now we're out. Peace.